if Lucy's ready, I'll hand over to Lucy, who has to be at home because she got a bit of a cold. We were with her yesterday at the Safer Somerset Partnership, and she did very well there. But Lucy will take us through. We also have Claire Stewart as well in the room from our same partnership. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you perfectly, Lucy. Yeah. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, firstly, many apologies for not being there in person today. Because of that, the flow of our presentation may not be as polished as we'd like, but we will do our best. But thank you. I will share my screen, so if you can let me know whether you can see this okay. Can you see that okay? Can't hear anybody or see anybody, so.
Can see it online, Lucy.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so what we're going to do today, presumably everybody's read the paper. The annual report that was a background paper is for context. So the annual report isn't a statutory or mandated document, but we do it to ensure that across our other strategic partnerships and our broader networks, everybody understands the work, the achievements, and also the challenges of the partnership. So we do that every year, but it is a retrospective look. So today I'll give you more information about what we're doing now to bring our work to life as well. We have Lisa and Claire here today that are going to take you through some case studies as well. So we will obviously have questions at the end. So what I was aiming to do, I think we have an hour and a half. So I don't want to spend too much time talking. I'd like to spend a bit of time just answering your questions. I know that last year we only had an hour session and you did ask for a bit longer, so we have an hour and a half today. And we've also, in between the two sessions, we did a focus item some of you will be involved in around domestic abuse. So I think last year's presentation, we tried to hit everything and I think it was a bit too much of an overload. So today we're going back to just a couple of case studies, but more of an overarching what do we do as a partnership, and also picking out our current challenges, because the point of this session is to be transparent in our activities, but also for us to be really clear about where we are struggling as a partnership and what we're trying to do to mitigate those issues. Okay, so I always start with what is community safety, because there are some various understandings of what it is. So it can sometimes be confused with health and safety. I get a lot of FOIs that aren't for me. But we generally work thematically. So every day, my day job generally hops between lots of different themes. And it's generally types of crime categories, types of vulnerability. So you'll see on the wheel there a number of different topics that we may deal with as a partnership at any one time. So it is a broad area of work. So just picking out a few there, we look at, we work in counter-terrorism, substance misuse. We'll work directly with the Strategic Drugs and Alcohol Partnership for enforcement, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, exploitation, the list goes on. And what we will find is that year on year, even month to month, our agenda does flex and change, which links to our statutory responsibilities, which I'll go on to now. So you'll all be interested to know the range of statutory responsibilities that the partnership has. Some of the responsibilities are on the partnership, and then others are on lead agencies that have to work together, and they do that through the partnership. So my work is very much about looking at what's going on nationally and regionally, what's going on in terms of what's coming through Parliament, and then looking at how we can convert that into our local work. So what you have there is the list of current statutory responsibilities, and the foundation of all of our work starts back in 1998 with the Crime and Disorder Acts, and the foundation of that was about the knowledge that the police can't arrest their way out of crime, they can't work on their own. They need to work in partnership. So the main points in there is around working in a partnership, but also creating a strategy for prevention as well as tackling crime. So there were a number of different legislation, different bits of legislation that came out shortly after that. So in kind of a decade after that, quite a lot of other pieces came out. And the main crux of those were about strategies and also looking at data. So really going back to why are we dealing with particular types of crime in our area? What is it about Somerset that we really need to target, and what's happening in our communities? So we have to create a community safety strategic needs assessment. And for those of you that are aware of the work we do in public health, in today's world, that's kind of commonplace. We all start with our evidence base, but back then it was quite new. So we spend a lot of our time creating needs assessments. We looking at our data, and we actually need to do a number of those now. So we have a overarching community safety needs assessment, which then determines our community safety strategy. We also need to do one for domestic abuse, and we also need to do one for serious violence. So these mandated statutory documents are kind of part of our business as usual, in our annual plan, but it is a hefty amount of work, and also investment. So at the moment, we've gone into partnership with North Somerset Council because they have a really robust data team. So we effectively commission them to do a lot of our data work in Somerset for community safety, because they have access to police systems and other data sets that we sometimes struggle as a partnership to access it readily. And it is actually more effective in terms of our spending. So we do that at the moment. So lots of needs assessments and then lots of strategies. So our work can get quite complicated because all of these needs assessments and strategies all kind of interlink. So at any given time, we're working towards a whole plethora of performance measures. There's a lot of reporting, and linked to that is a lot of grant funding. So if you consider how we work kind of annually, nationally, there's legislation. Linked to that, there's a number of local burdens. Linked to that is a lot of grant funding. And then the way we spend that is linked to all of these strategies. So it's a lot of work. So I have a really great team behind me. Claire's in the room today. I have 2 other managers and a number of officers. And going back to the previous slide, we do kind of give everybody a portfolio. So everybody has a responsibility for a number of themes, because that's how we find it most effective in terms of the way we work. So as well as strategies and needs assessments, we also, as a partnership, are responsible for signing off and publishing domestic homicide reviews. Some of you will be more familiar with those than others. So it's essentially a serious case review, but it is linked to anyone who dies as a result of domestic abuse, age 16 or over. And that includes any type of death, which includes suicides as well. So we have talked about that at Scrutiny before. That area of work in itself does take about 2 to 3 full-time officers just to do that work at the moment. It's a huge amount. And where we're finding the things that we're struggling with at the moment as a partnership is not commissioning and managing that process. What we're struggling with is how we're embedding the learning of those reviews. So that features in our reports, and it features in a lot of anytime we talk about domestic homicides in partnership, we'll always talk about the challenges we have about learning the lessons from all of these reviews, because there's one thing to create an action and complete the action, but then coming back a year later and saying, have we embedded that action into practice, is very difficult. And there's hundreds of actions that are linked to DHRs in Somerset. Moving to counter-terrorism, we have a Prevent board. It's a statutory board. I chair that, and we've had that in place since the start, so since 2016, 17. And again, similar to the needs assessments and strategies in the world of counterterrorism, we have a counterterrorism local profile and we have a prevent plan. So linked to that is then a channel. So channel is a process where we deal with nominals, we deal with individuals who come to our attention who may be vulnerable to terrorist activity. So that is as well is a big piece of work, but because it is statutory, there is statutory guidance, and it's a really clear, robust process. Prevent has been in the news nationally for quite some time, but I think it's fair to say in Somerset it does work well. We are seeing more cases, and that's linked to the Southport murders a couple of years ago, or last year. We are seeing more people come to our attention who may not have a clear rhetoric or a clear ideology, but they have a focus or an interest in violence. And since those really terrible murders a year ago, we can't ignore people with fascination with violence. So we are seeing more cases come through to our channel processes. The latest statutory responsibilities that we have is around serious violence, and we've got Claire in the room today who will talk a little bit about the work that we're doing in that space. The responsibilities that we have is to, again, work in partnership, but also share specific data. What we found over the last few years is that when we're dealing with serious violence, it can be difficult to share particularly personalised information, but generally sharing information about serious violence can be really tricky across partners, because we're not only working with our statutory partners, but also voluntary and community sector. So the legislation assists us in that work to try and share information to get to the root of what's happening in our communities, who are our individuals, our groups, our networks that we need to be looking at. Okay, so as I've said earlier, really, although we have that list of statutory duties, legislation is changing all the time. So at the moment, there is the Crime and Policing Bill that's going through, I think it's at committee stage at the moment in Parliament, and that's going to offer us more powers around antisocial behaviour. It clarifies some of our partnership activities and how we're supposed to be working together. And it's also launching new tools such as respect orders. Some of you may be familiar with that term, which is a new power that's coming to tackle antisocial behaviour in public spaces. There's also statutory guidance being launched soon. It's a replacement of the statutory guidance for domestic homicide reviews. That's imminent, as is national guidance and national strategy for violence against women and girls. So there's a number of things in the offing, and it's just an example where we're always having to look ahead, because there's a number of things that are coming our way that we know is going to hit us soon. And it's not just an add-on, it's kind of some of these things can fundamentally change the way that we work together. So with that in mind, the slide you have on your screen is the latest structure of the Community Safety Partnership, which is different to the one that you'll have seen in the annual report. So I wanted to show you this because we're always flexing and adapting our work, and it's necessary because of these changes that are always coming our way. So the main changes here, so you'll see that there is a new subgroup. There's a strategic exploitation group in place now. So some of you will be familiar with the JTI inspection, the Joint Targeted Area Inspection that happened a couple of years ago, and that was focused on serious youth violence. What it clearly showed very quickly for us is that our governance arrangements and our partnership arrangements in that space weren't good enough. So one of our mitigations for that was to set up a strategic exploitation group. So that's headed up by our head of youth justice and our head of children's social care, Front Door, and they jointly chair that group. And the main focus of that group is to really make sure that we have clear and robust pathways for understanding who in our community is vulnerable to exploitation, and how we then share that information across our partnerships and into then our strategic planning as well. We've already talked about serious violence, so we have a Somerset Violence Reduction Partnership. What is new since the annual report was written is there's been a revamp and a really firm positioning of what we're calling Safer Somerset priorities. So that's in the yellow box there underneath the VRP. Claire will talk about a case study that really demonstrates how that works in a moment, so I won't say too much more about that. What we also have that's new is a MARAC steering group. So MARAC is Multi-Agency Risk Assessment Conferencing, which is a multi-agency group that come together to talk about those victims and perpetrators, but victims at high risk of domestic abuse. Whilst we have had partnerships that look at MARAC for a number of years, we've re-established a specific working group because our services within the council, but also partner agencies, have really struggled to participate fully in MARAC recently because the processes haven't been good enough for everybody to work with them. So a group have been put in place to really hone in on those processes and make sure that it works for everybody. Okay, so what I'll do now is hand you over to Claire, and she will give you, bring to life, if you like, some work that we're doing that demonstrates how Safer Somerset Priorities works.
There's no sound from the room at all online, I'm afraid. We can see lips moving on the screen, but there's no sound coming through. There's absolutely no sound coming through on our end. It's as if the owl's been muted. I don't know why. We can hear you.
Splendid.
Yeah, but they come up and stuff and then I hate that.
We apologise about this. Apologies, sorry. Okay, are we ready to go? Okay, back over to you, Claire. Thank you very much. Sorry about this. Hope you haven't missed anything. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll recap a little bit. So there may be some repetition for other people. Sorry if you've missed certain sections. So we were bringing to life a case study around some of the operational tactical work that's been going on the last 12 months. I was talking about one of our multi-agency meetings, which is called Safer Sunset Priorities, and it's listed under the structure Lucy's just shown. So about 20 agencies meet once a fortnight, apologies, and discuss any concerns around escalating serious violence that they may feel needs more input than their business as usual can offer amongst partners. We were discussing a case where there had been antisocial behaviour in a social housing property. It had been going on some time. The community were talking about the concern quite a lot, talking to professionals, maybe not reporting it to the police as they've been advised. So maybe not enough information had gone into police intelligence. There were concerns, although they were unconfirmed at the time, that there was drug dealing from the property that includes supplying to children. So this case was brought to the meeting. We had done work to make sure the right partners around the table. So we had the landlord, we had health, we had children's services. When the information was shared, we then understood that a child had overdosed recently with substance misuse concerns and had been linked to that address. We then understood that a vulnerable child who had missing episodes, who was already under children's social care, had been visiting that address. And we understood a bit more about the intelligence gaps that hadn't been passed on to the police due to people telling maybe a support worker or somebody else in the community, but then not going on to do the actual reporting. The sharing of the information and the tasking of actions under that meeting meant that we could, the landlord was able to accelerate possession proceedings around the tenancy regarding the person in question. There was increased police presence to gain community trust in that area and help fill those intelligence gaps in what was happening. The social worker was able to be notified in regards to vulnerable young child that was already under their services, and a call notice, which is a child abduction warning notice, was served on the tenant of the property, so that if that child was found at that property again, further action would be taken. That child was also given additional support through a diversionary intervention. For those of you who aren't aware, that's when we assign a mentor who can help a young person get into more positive activities in the community, where they can gain a sense of belonging through getting involved in sports or arts or whatever their interest is. The second child, who had been identified as going there and linked to the overdose, wasn't even on the radar of children's services at that time. So we were able to allocate a family intervention worker and also review that child's school attendance, because education was also on the call. And of course, it came to light that this child was not attending school. So that gives you a context around how that work occurs. We've always had multi-agency meetings of that type in Somerset, but it's only been in the last 12 months that, led by the police, we've been able to strengthen the numbers and input from partners around the table to make sure that we can properly look at those kinds of situations and to try and get in and deal with them as a group, as one voice, for partners around the table before the situation gets even more serious than it already was. So thank you. Linked to that, in some cases, we have situations arise where information is coming to light that maybe is even more than what this meeting can address. So Lisa's going to come and talk about a situation where even that multi-agency input wasn't quite enough, and offer a case study of where even more detailed work has had to happen in the community to reduce risk.
Thank you. Is it just worth saying that there are two of those that run across Somerset in the monthly cycle? So the Somerset Safer Partnership meeting is split into the old east and west Somerset area. So actually it's able to deal with more cases. Not
Put it a bit nearer.
Can you hear? Is that better? So we've got all of the partners present every 2 weeks for the east, and then again for the west, which tries not to duplicate the partnership presence, but does mean that we can deal with more cases in the 90 minutes that's allotted. Your stuff, I can't read that. I've got the glasses. Thank you. Thank you. But this is where we're busting a bit. It's been lots of prep in this, but in terms of actually the speaking part of it, we didn't rehearse, as you can tell. So Asray, however individuals have been talking about it, you may well have heard of it. I'd be surprised if you're living in Bridgewater if you haven't. So this time last year, but just a little bit before, through the Safer Somerset Partnership meeting and through other multi-agency meetings, it became quite clear that we had a cohort of young people in and around the area of Bridgewater, although connected to Thornton, Weston and Wellington, who had a propensity to carry knives. And we're talking about children from the ages of 10 all the way through to tipping into adulthood. I should cover that although 18 is, we all define as adult at 18, we do think about vulnerability and harm against children, young adults beyond that and way towards sort of 24, 25. But anyway, this was a cohort of around 60 children from 10 to 17 who had been committing crime in and around Bridgewater and associated with those that were carrying knives. Not all of them were carrying knives, but there had been an escalation in knife point robberies. There had been an escalation in harm. There had been some of the top end offenders in that had been, present in policing responses daily, and sometimes more than once daily, and all sorts of antisocial behaviour associated with it. Even the young ones were being asked to wait outside shops for shoplifting, and it was just all too linked. The partnership meeting that Claire has just described started to put the pieces together because obviously agencies were coming to that meeting and talking about that group of children. But the response that was required was an escalation outside of that, because as you can imagine, in a 90-minute meeting with probably 6 cases a meeting, there's only 10 or 15 minutes where you can talk about an issue. This was a real risk to the young people of Bridgewater and actually had spilled out to knife point robberies on visiting adults in the community. So using the platform that we had, we were able to link in with those partners that were already attending and then think about what wider partnerships and volunteer sector did we need to bring together this group of children and have meetings that were outside in order to talk about this escalating risk and this cohort. Asray identified quite a few specific leads in each of the agencies so that there could be an immediate and a rapid data trawl to make sure what did all of our individual data tell us about these children, who was on the system, who were in child protection plans, who were not known to services, where were they in the education system. There was a rapid reaction in the December and January to look at what did we know, what could we do better, and actually how are we going to respond in a way that categorise that 60, because some of them literally were on the periphery and needed to be not arrested. And we talk about, right, circle around to what Lucy said right at the start, arresting children, stop searching children for knives and violence is not trauma informed, it's not the approach. And in 2006, when we started to really work in the multi-agency space to do this, that would have been the answer. It's not now. There is a layer and an escalation of arrest that absolutely, and in this case, needed to be used, but not on all 60. So we had to work out in partnership, what do we do to stop the behaviours, one, protect the children who are both offenders and victims, and protect the wider communities. And as you can see from the slide, there was all sorts of activity that then happened as a result of individuals, agencies saying, this is what we could do, this is what we should do, this is what we must do. So yes, there were focused patrols by policing. There was antisocial behaviour that legislation that we used more widely. We had increasing resources, policing resources brought in from the centre, so horses. Our armed police units would not because there was a risk of using what they could, but we can deploy our skilled and refined teams to respond to something where there is a problem. So we call to the centre and we've asked them to do different patrols at different times. So we used every single tool in our box, as did children's social care, as did all of the volunteer sectors, so every agency really stepped up to say, what can we do differently here? And the result of it is that we did tens and tens and tens of stop searches and actually only found weapons in 15 cases. I know that's horrifying, isn't it, to find children with weapons in 15 cases, but we're talking about 60 children that were offending daily. So actually the context was the risk and the fear of what they were doing wasn't really well understood. It was the connectivity, what they were doing behind the scenes, more than just carrying the weapons. So we had a lot of intervention with the children on the periphery, a lot of protection and plans in line with what Claire was talking about in diversionary activity. And we took these children through the pathway and narrowed it down to a cohort of, in the end, 9 children who we still are owning now, who are still very much active in criminality, because actually it's really hard to get the right care and restrictions for these children. But we've narrowed it right down so that the offending almost stopped overnight. The intelligence grew massively. The coordination between the partners of what activity was right for what child was then seamless with the efforts and the energy. And we're just about to do a proper and structured review of what worked. Well, firstly, why did it ever get to that stage before we were all acting in a coordinated fashion? One. And then having made a coordinated approach, what did we learn so that we could do it better next time? And then where are all those children now in the system, and are we still doing everything we can? And that review's been commissioned through the Violence Reduction Partnership and is about to begin. So there will be results from it wider than those I've just discussed.
Could I just ask you, could you just, I love acronyms, absolutely adore them in every sense of the word. And you, in its language that you use constantly, but Azraya, and you've got NEAT, and that, could you in the future perhaps put the acronym, but put the meaning behind it, because it will help everyone.
Yeah, just for clarity, ASRAE is just the name of the operation. So
it's not short for anything.
No. So it's, we give it depending on where it is geographically. Policing, where it's a large operation, policing gives it a name so that we don't have to talk about that incident in Bridgewater. It gets lumped into a name and everyone then can refer to it in meeting structures. And so that's the name this was given as a significant operation. So it's not an acronym.
Like Storm, is it? Yeah.
Lucy, sorry, Councillor Trim.
I just wondered if I might ask a question. I wasn't expecting to, it's not in my book to ask, but with this operation outright, have you been able to stop new children being brought into the trouble? Being brought into those groups, younger siblings, other children externally? Are you finding there's not a feed through, or you talked about that sort of residual number of children that are still causing problems? Most of them have been sorted. Has it been nipped in the bud?
Yes, it absolutely has been nipped in the bud. Whether or not we've stopped the children, the younger siblings of those families involved from entering into crime, I can't answer that yet. The review will show what have we done for those families and how have we managed to turn that around. In terms of the cohort of 9 who are still committing serious criminality, they were unsurprisingly the most risky 9 from the start. And we haven't got, well, we might have time for it here, but the whole criminal justice system and the care system is not, if I may say, financially robust enough to necessarily cope with the complexity of care they need. Otherwise, in the 80s, they would be behind bars. That's not necessarily the right answer. But what is there that, where's the secure bed? Where's the placements? Where's the help? The challenge is to stop them completely. They've got to be secured and educated and invested in, because we're talking about 16 and 17-year-olds. So that's why that cohort, really serious offending, is really hot. We've got somebody in court today from that cohort, not for knife crime, but for serious crime. So you're nipping it in the bud, not totally. The siblings of those 9, we know who they are as a partnership, and we are proactive with those families. Being proactive with because we colour coded them. So we're talking here about the red cohort of 9, for example. There are some other colour codings about, do we need to do something even more covert? Do we need that? And then the green ones right at the bottom of harm, risky, but at the bottom of harm, those have definitely been nipped in the bud. We know who those families are. We can watch and support the families, bring up any other siblings that may even have older siblings as well. So yeah. I can never say nipped in the bud totally, because there's still criminality, but certainly those on the green tier, yes.
Thank you. Are you happy for another question, or would you prefer to carry on and wait to the end, or are you?
It's absolutely Lucy and Claire's presentation. I'm happy to do whatever's easiest.
It would be actually, Lucy's got another example of some work and some slides to finish off, so it might be really useful if she just carries on with those, and then we can take some questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So hand back over to Lucy.
Right with
Oh,
me?
yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I'm still sharing my screen, yes?
Yeah, you're sharing your screen, no problem.
Okay, lovely. I'm just trying to move it on. Okay, so there's one more kind of example that we wanted to share, which demonstrates the changes in the way that we've been working as a result of national and local challenges in the community. So probably, well, I think we've always actually had a strategic partnership that focuses on hate crime. And back in 2021, we redeveloped that partnership to also focus on community cohesion. And that was in the face of a lot of challenges in the community, that was kind of flexing in line with the national kind of how things are working around. We had asylum hotels, we had displaced people's programs being more commonplace. And we wanted to make sure that we gave enough attention to that area, because although if you look at data, hate crime is lower in numbers, the impact on our community is huge. And in Somerset, our diverse communities are increasing, so we wanted to make sure that we give an adequate focus. So since 2021, that partnership was in place. What we found was that we were really struggling to get the right attendance at that partnership. We had a strategy, we had a huge amount of resource going into that partnership, but the outcomes weren't where we wanted them to be. And then last year, as I've mentioned earlier, the riots and the violence that happened over the summer nationally and locally, what we found was that the people that we really wanted at our partnership started to come together with us because of those issues. And it was almost like it's not a silver cloud if you like, but it's kind of a positive legacy from those horrible things that happened over the summer, led to us building much better connections and networks with our community leaders. And that wasn't within our partnership, that was another group. So our police colleagues, Lisa and her team, and ourselves, and Bill and Duncan as well, we came together to look at how can we create a better legacy from those events. And what we developed was community voices. So it started as a weekly meeting with our community, with some community leaders, to look at what they found were the challenges in our community, what was happening at the time, what was concerning them, and also for them to ask us questions, you know, as a council and key partners. What are we doing to help protect them and make them feel safer? So once those, probably it was a couple of months really, where we were really focusing our attention on those activities that were happening, the planned protests and things like that, we committed as a council and police to those communities to keep that meeting going. So what was a small group is now a fully fledged forum. It meets every 6 to 8 weeks, and what we are trying to start face-to-face meetings where we can with those groups, and it's been a really good kind of example really, where things that aren't in our control, national and regional incidents, really bring the community together. So that's something we just wanted to tell you. So what we found was that because that was working so well, we didn't necessarily need to have a formal partnership in place. So the partnership decommissioned the Hate Crime and Community Cohesion Partnership. So I wanted to bring that to your attention today, because obviously on the face of it, if you say we're decommissioning a partnership like that, it sounds really negative, but actually we're doing that because we're achieving what we need elsewhere. So that's that one. Okay, so just moving on to some data. there's a whole, as I've mentioned earlier, there's a whole host of data that we look at on a day-to-day basis. Just in Claire's world, in serious violence, she's looking at different data sets every day to look at where we should be focusing our attention. But today I was just going to give you a very quick overview of where we are. So in terms of crime and antisocial behaviour as a total. So what we're seeing is quite a stable picture, and we don't very often see big influxes, positive or negative for Somerset. It's generally very stable. The tables there that you're seeing look like there are lots of influxes, but actually if you look closely, it's a monthly chart. So that's the numbers every month. If you elongated that, if you made it into a monthly, quarterly, annual chart, that distribution would be a lot smaller. So you'd see a much kind of straighter line, if you like. But in general, what we're seeing is a stable with a slight increase at the moment. If you're looking at incident, all crime is going down. Antisocial behaviour is generally stable with a slight influx in the last couple of months. When we're breaking that down by crime type, I've just had just looking at our latest full crime product that's going to influence our next strategy. And actually what we're seeing is quite significant reductions in crime across most crime types. Claire will tell you that knife crime has reduced quite significantly. Claire, you might want to remind me of the percentage. I'm thinking it's around 17%. That's off the top of my head. So the work that we are doing to focus on these types of crime is helping. What we are seeing is a slight increase. So our attention, we think, needs to focus more around disruption of serious and organised crime, and also drugs-related offences. That's the only place where we're starting to see a bit of a climb. And as I mentioned just now, antisocial behaviour is always going to be a priority for us. And the good news is, as a council, we are currently recruiting to a new part of my team that are going to focus on community engagement and tackling antisocial behaviour in the community. So maybe next time we come and present to you, maybe we can concentrate a bit more on those new developments. Okay, so just before we go to questions, I think one of the things I just wanted to highlight from the report were some of the challenges, which links to the recommendations, which was in terms of developments for our team, or as the partnership, I should say, there is a bit of information in the report about the fact that our police and crime grant, so the annual grant that comes from the PCC, we've been getting a grant as a partnership since the PCCs came into place, and prior to PCCs it was a different name. It was a grant, but just by a different name. But we've always had an annual grant as a partnership that we use to both support our statutory functions, but also fund local initiatives. So the work that we've talked about for ASRI and priorities, we utilise grants for some of those diversionary activities that we would then offer those people that we focus on. We've been made aware that the police and crime grant will be reducing by about 34% in April. And the challenge for us is that, so that's a reduction. I think this year it's been 208,000, and that's reducing to 130-ish. So the challenges for us are twofold. That grant currently pays for a member of my team who does all of the back office work, the day-to-day functionality of the partnership. And also the grant helps us to pay for domestic homicide reviews. So in terms of assurance, domestic homicide reviews, I have found an alternative solution to fund that activity. But it is another grant, so it isn't guaranteed year on year, but for the time being, that has been resolved. And for my member of staff, I have put in a growth bid, so it's just for transparency purposes. That's where we are as a partnership in terms of those kind of resource challenges. And then beyond that, we are aware that the partnership doesn't have a board manager. I do some bits as part of my role, and then my team pick up most of the activity as part of business as usual. With the amount of work and change that is ongoing at the moment, I'm looking at options to create a temporary board manager role for the partnership. So just for transparency, that work is ongoing as well. So the recommendations that you have in your report is just to support that work that's ongoing to help bring up, I guess, our level of resource to be comparable across the other strategic partnerships that are in Somerset. So that's, I think, all I need to say. Claire, Lisa, anything that you wanted to add?
Are you going to mention the governance, Lucy, or I can?
Yeah, do you want to go?
So just furthering on from that part about the SSP board manager not being equitable, so safeguarding children and safeguarding adult structures, we are and have been trying to escalate a piece of work that brings together and centralises the cross-cutting business that sits in. So what we saw in that first chart was really complex. I could see members around the room looking at that chart and shaking their head. In terms of living that for our people to understand what's the priority for all of those themes and how do we link them up. So DHR actions and outcomes will mirror the outcomes from child death reviews and will mirror the outcomes from adult death reviews. There's lots of commonalities in them. We don't have the governance structure in Somerset that pulls all that together, refines it and themes it. And that's a really crude summary of the point. I think it is in the papers made, but we are trying to work at pace to resolve that. And as a partnership, look to see where are the efficiencies, but more importantly, where are the better outcomes for the community.
Can we ask questions? Are you happy? Or are you still?
Yeah, I'll just come in on that. Lucy did mention some statistics there, and I think what I'll do, because we've got such a broad range, I can put some together. So if that's taken as an action, I can share those with the minutes of the meeting.
Yeah, I think an explanation. I think also could you explain a little bit? It's actually 37%, not 34% reduction. It's 37% in the bid. I'd just like you to expand on that a little bit. The reduction for next year will be 37%. So we need to know exactly what you're asking for, really, or what you're putting forward. This does seem a little bit more clarity is needed.
Is that a question for Lucy? Is that?
I don't mind.
So we're not asking for anything in terms of the reduction in the grant. It's for people to be aware that we will be, it will impact on the activities that we'll be able to do next year. So all we're asking for this board to do is just support the work that we're doing to look at alternative ways to fund the post that I have in my team that supports the functionality of the partnership.
Comment reduction in the grant, Jill.
Sorry, yes,
Start
please.
comment on the reduction in the grant.
Yes, welcome, Mr. Kevin Slocum. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Slocum. Good then. Yeah, I'm the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner. Firstly, apologies that the actual Police and Crime Commissioner claim really can't make today due to other pressing engagements. Just a comment on the reduced grant. I think it's worth commenting on that. We are revisiting the way that our office spends the grant and how it allocates the grant. Doesn't mean that money won't be available in Somerset, because some of it will be. But the money which is directly funded to partnerships like the Safer Somerset Partnership, and I would say we support this report and the work they do very strongly, is about taking a more holistic approach to some of the big ticket issues. So on youth violence, for example, obviously it was correctly said by Lucy earlier, you can't arrest your way out of crime, you can't completely arrest your way out of youth crime. The holistic work which is done on that, you've seen a reduction in knife crime across Avon and Somerset and across the UK. Some of that is the work done in communities and outside of policing. We will, for example, be looking to change the way we fund different programs. And so, for example, we've been working with an organisation called Peace in Our Cities, who are the world's leading organisation on urban violence and youth crime and youth violence. They're UN supported and by the Stanley Centre for Violence in America. they've had huge success. So we've been working with a number of different cities. We recently had a visit from Oakland in California. They've got an Office of Violence Prevention, which may be the way forward for Avon and Somerset, and we'll be looking to fund a pilot of that from the Police and Crime Grant, which Somerset may well be part of. Oakland has reduced serious violence by 50% in the last 6 years. They've got a lot of gun crime, obviously. We've got knife crime rather than gun crime at the moment. So we want to invest particularly in an approach which is community led, and we will work with the partnerships to do that. Offices of Violence Prevention have reduced crime around the world, places like Medellin in Colombia, big cities in Canada and America. Oakland's a perfect example. So we won't, it's not that the money is disappearing, it's being repurposed to look at a more holistic, more strategic way of reducing crime and reducing violence in particular. We'll also be looking to fund specific work around violence against women and girls and domestic abuse, which is also one of our priorities. And we'll be introducing a bid system. So you will still be able to bid for different projects within the Police and Crime Grant. So it's not that the money is disappearing, it will be repurposed in a slightly different way to help achieve the same priorities that are in the report, which we support. Thanks.
Thank you. You can see what I was saying. When you look at the report written like that, we are very concerned, obviously, about crime issues at the moment. Things seem to us, to members of the public, seem to be rising. There seem to be major problems, and you're talking about a 37% reduction. This is really concerned. So no doubt Heather will be able to throw some light on this.
As long as I bring light and not heat, I'm not too sure. I just want to kind of reflect firstly, absolutely, I support the fact that the team have brought this issue forward, that funding is happening in different ways. And I just wanted to kind of add to that, which is that, and it's interesting, there's also a backdrop which we haven't talked about, but somebody might ask questions about possibly, which is the changes that are proposed in the policing structure. So it's a bit more geographical. Oh, sorry, forgive me. It moves from a directorate approach where you do by functionality, but back into, devolution into different areas within the force areas, so geographically arranged. The point I was going to make was I absolutely get that there are many issues which need to be looked at strategically across the entire force area, and where a central way is better. I don't know how many people, or what people were thinking around the room when quite rightly Kevin was talking about, the peace in cities. The city we have in Somerset is Wells, which is smaller than my village. So I think there's something about ensuring constantly two things. One is constantly that Avon Somerset is a big area with lots of different needs and different geographies. And of course, sitting in a room in Bridgewater, we're going to be really considering and concentrating on Somerset. And that idea about what rural crime is, or what the impacts of rurality are for that. So one thing is about, I do hope some of the more strategic, visual thinking across all of our system recognises specific needs in Somerset. The other one as well is, I think, and I'm really pleased. I wasn't aware that we could perhaps make bids into a central pot of money. But I think what I've heard all the way through this morning, and what I've heard since 2019 in many places, is that we have statutory duties for some of our most challenged residents that are being paid for. 1 year, 2 year, if you're lucky, 3-year grants. And the sustainability is not there. So I think it's just worth considering that, I think, for all of us. And it's not just community safety partnerships that have that. Children's services has it, adults has it, homelessness has it. Where you think, oh, you can bid for some money. It lasts about a year. It comes with strings attached. That's what we're all in our systems, all of our systems. And I'm certainly not having a go at Kevin because he sat next to me. But that's the sea we're swimming in, and the challenges we have are that all the time since 2019, I have seen fabulous work done through the Community Safety Partnership, through the Safer Somerset Partnership, as we call it here, on not enough resource. And so that, we're not coming with a pot in our hand saying, please give us some money. But as Lucy said, please understand and comprehend the great work and support what we're trying to do. Thank you.
I don't think there's any doubt about not wanting to support. I think what I find frustrating as a ward councillor and a councillor, is the fact that all this bidding, all these meetings, all these tiers, do you know what I mean? I want to see, as Mona's do, more police on the streets, more police out there, sorting out things, educating our young, and yet get things sorted. It seems to be, and you hear this all the time about broken Britain, and we're worried about it, and we are all worried about it. So I think when you see a reduction, I don't want to see a reduction, you know, because we need resource and we need this fund for policing. So that's my thoughts. But anyway, can I go to Councillor Ewan, please?
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Councillor Cameron, actually. Sorry.
I'll be whoever you want me to be. Chair. Ewan Cameron, councillor for Glastonbury. I'd just like to say, first of all, thank you very much to Simon Lancy and the neighbourhood team. It's recognised by the residents of Glastonbury that additional resource has been allocated. I just want to put that on record and say thank you. And if you could pass that down, I should be grateful. On the 7th, the question is I'm about to pose, and I think it might be to Lucy, not too sure, guided by colleagues, is around public spaces protection orders. On the 7th of November, Inspector Rachel Clark, Frederica Smith-Roberts kindly came down to Glastonbury to attend antisocial behaviour workshop with many of the business community, led by Sarah Dyke, our MP. One of the things that came out through the PSPO discussion was that it's probably going to take at least 6 months or more to get that in place. Having canvassed many of those that were in the meeting and also those that were not in the meeting, the general feeling from the business community in Glastonbury is that the PSPO really needs to be in place by Beltane and by, for those who don't know what Beltane is, that's pagan calendar, and so therefore 1st of May, but preferably in by the 1st of April. And I was just wondering, this is the question now, is there any way that we can make certain that that PSPO is in place by the 1st of April? And I'm willing to work with anyone in order to get it across the line.
So Lucy will want to talk to that, I'm sure, as well, but if I start off with no pressure, I might cover the points. So firstly, thank you. I think the meeting on the 7th of November, from our perspective, was really, really helpful. And I think it's a good indication of when senior partners all step into the space, we can get stuff done. So I'm very grateful for the input. The second thing I'll say is that PSPOs are a great tool, absolutely a great tool, but it doesn't mean to say that it's the only tool, and it doesn't mean to say that by the 1st of April or May that we can't be robust as a partnership to make sure antisocial behaviour in the town is limited, and that our response to that and criminality is really increased. And I think we've got all sorts of plans for partnership to make sure that is the case. So it is another tool in the armoury. It's not the best one or necessarily the most successful one, but I'm not undermining actually that it's required. We get that. The reason why we've been in Somerset slower to act on PSPOs compared to other parts of the country has been the legacy of the way in which we work around our antisocial behaviour in partnership. And that's been, I think it's in the report, it's been addressed. There's been a significant uplift at the time that the council found itself in a difficult position. And despite that, the uplift into antisocial behaviour, a team that can be fit for purpose is inches away from being now fully resourced. And so, you know, as partnership, and we're really grateful. I know it's going to be fantastic. Before that, there hasn't been any ability for the local authority to service the PSPOs. So we might have had one, but actually it's a then blunt instrument if we, the police, are issuing, you know, the work that goes around and issuing the warnings and the tickets can't then be enforced. And at the same time, those that, and particularly in Glastonbury and in Taunton, in some of our homeless communities and in some of our more deprived communities, the toothless tiger that it would be is that, well, okay, we've issued it and there's certain powers and responsibilities, but you've got people that will never be able to pay the fine. So what is it that we're seeking to achieve? So I will give Lucy the chance to come in there. We have actually all got together to work out how we're going to enact and respond to good PSPOs across Somerset, where it is required as an additional tool. But I just guard against, because there's an awful lot of the press that, you know, this is the way forward. Good partnership policing in towns, good partnership reaction in towns is the way forward. It might be a great tool, it might not, but it's not the only tool. Lucy, have I trodden on what you might want to say?
Yeah, I don't need to say anything. Thanks, Lisa. No, I think I was going to say pretty much the same thing. Whilst we are definitely making moves now. Rachel and her team are doing a fantastic job to help collate the evidence, because that's the first step, making sure we have the evidence so we can then complete the application. We are also looking, I think it's important to note that there are a number of areas of Somerset who are asking for the same thing. So what we're also doing is looking at those areas, because if we look at these in isolation, we could again get ourselves into a situation where we're applying for similar PSPOs, but then we can't enforce because suddenly people need to be everywhere at the same time. So we are trying to be as quick as we can, but also as cautious as we can. If we rush to fail it, I think the consequence will be what we had last time, which is, as Lisa said, the blunt instrument that causes such a lot of disenfranchisement in the community, a lot of grievance in the community, and then we get the complaints. So we want to make sure that a PSPO in Glastonbury works. What we're also looking, and it kind of touches on what Lisa said, we know the people in Glastonbury in the town. We know that there are some entrenched vulnerabilities and street drinking. We know who those individuals are. So we're also looking at what else can we do, because as Lisa said, if we're just there with a PSPO to the same people all the time and they're just refusing to play, then it won't work, and then the community will come back to us and say, well, why aren't you enforcing it? So it is a really tricky order, but it's absolutely something we want to do if we can. So one of the things I think probably Rachel talked about it at the meeting on the 6th of November, we have now got a really good process in place where the first thing that we will do is we come together with the police and we go through almost like a viability checklist for the PSPO to say who's going to enforce it, how can we enforce it, what's the location, who are these people, do we have the funding, do we have the legal, every single thing we look at that right at the start to look at the viability, and we're doing it with the right people around the table. So it's a much better situation than we were in when PSPOs were last put in place. So hopefully you'll see a big difference on the ground, particularly when our team's up and running. And I guess the other thing, once we have our team, they also need to be trained and fully trained to be able to enforce these PSPOs, which again takes a bit of time. So there's lots of moving parts to this, but please be assured that we are on it and we are looking at it and we'll do it as quick as we can.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Thank you. You can, Councillor Cameron, because you're new, I will let you come back very swiftly, please.
Thank you, Lucy. If I can reach out to you and other colleagues to take this offline, a number of things you've just mentioned there. We've got new information. We are up to speed in some of those areas, and therefore that's why there's a frustration. But we feel that we can move more swiftly than the 6-month marker. So if I could reach out to you, I should be grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all want speed, don't we? We all want speed. Okay, can I go now to, is it okay? Are you happy? I'd like to go to Councillor Trimnell, please.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Chair. So I want to start firstly by thanking through you, Lisa, the police in general for the work that they do, because I don't think you get enough thanks. I think you get a lot of criticism, and you do good work. You are stretched, and I totally understand all of those things. A couple of questions that I've got about this paper. We've been asked to approve the growth bid in the paper, but I didn't feel in the paper, and it might not be just you, it's also to Lucy, is that I didn't know really what the growth bid was. I didn't know what it was for. I didn't know who it was to, how much it was going to be, etc. And I just wondered, where the money is going to come from, because it's a financial question. So I wondered if somebody could just give us some more information about that before we have to make a vote on it. I noticed that, I think Councillor Slocum picked up on it, there are a lot of meetings, there are a lot of panels. The concern always is that when you have a lot of meetings and panels, are people being diverted away from the work? And I think that we always have to be mindful, that's all, it's not criticism, but mindful that having a meeting to discuss things you discuss at another meeting can be problematic at times, and not to see that as a solution or, these are the actions we're taking if they don't actually have tangible outcomes. Something else that I wanted to ask about was the priorities. So I tried to think about why the crimes that I hear most about aren't reported here. I represent Wincanton and Bruton, so it's a rural place. Heather spoke earlier about the fact that Wells City is smaller than the village where she represents in the street. I represent a town which should be bigger than a village, but Bruton and Wincanton are both smaller, so it's all upside down, topsy-turvy in Somerset. But we have some big antisocial behaviour problems in our area, and I met with you, I think it was in about January this year, to discuss some of the problems. Was it January? Was it? Yeah, so that was in Wincanton, but it was a really helpful meeting. One of the problems I have is that when I've tried to contact the police about things, the emails I've been given, there's all change again, and there are different people, and so it's very, very hard to keep track of who are the police PCSOs responsible in your area, and I would love to be updated on that when that changes, so that I've always got somebody that I can contact about an issue. We've had shoplifting in our area, which is problematic and it causes trauma. So from an adult's perspective, we're talking about people who then are really concerned about their livelihood. Farm crime is huge where we are. There, I would say probably easily half of the parish councils that I go to, and I have 2 town and 7 parishes, talk about crime on a regular basis, thefts from their farms. This is very, very distressing. Farmers already don't have much money. They find it so costly to replace the equipment. They feel, what I found out, I attended the NFU Somerset Countryside Day, which had a focus on crime a couple of months ago. And what I found out there was that a lot of these reports never make it in front of a police man or woman, basically. That I think the term was filed at sort of, and they never even know about them, and that's a huge concern. And then finally, so I want to know why rural crime isn't being listed here, because it seems massive to me. It's all I hear about. And finally, antisocial behaviour. So this has become, I was made aware just last night of an incident or a number of incidents that have taken place in my area. People throwing paint at cars, people throwing eggs, flour and other objects at cars. This has been just in the last few days, this is the new thing. I want to tell you that somebody reported to the police that there were some people hammering on their door in the middle of the night. The police turned out within 10 minutes, which was really impressive. Looked around, they went away again. The people came back, started hammering on the door again. I think it was 4 police cars, 8 police officers came within 15 minutes. They are taking it seriously, but we don't have CCTV. So when you're talking about the town and things like that, you have all of the facilities to trace these things. What we need is more patrols. We have a big site in Bruton that's no longer used in operation, derelict, and therefore a hive for people breaking in and getting up to no good. We need more patrols in rural areas as well, please. And I will leave you to it now. Thank you.
I think some of these issues probably are pertain to particular items, and it's possible, and I think they were really, really relevant. I could give you a list living in Bridgewater, and we all could. Do you know what I mean? You'd be here all night. So I think, but I do think respectfully, I think it was a good point if we can actually contact you after to discuss the certain elements. I think that would be really helpful. That would be okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's some general points there that I can probably help members understand if you'd like me to address the points more generally, and obviously the specific we can make
making a report.
No, none at all. But I think what we're saying is we've all got every councillor. So if you could just report on the general.
Yes, I will, and I'll give you some context which might help, and I will refer the bit about the money. I'll refer back to Lucy, because obviously Lucy's the author of the report, and it's not the money thing I can't talk to. I can make a case about meetings, and I'll come back to that point. So I'll go in reverse order, and I will just talk about rural crime first of all. So you all know that we have to have a set of priorities, and we've got a finite resource. Now, none of this is going to be an excuse. I live in a rural village myself, so I absolutely recognise the impact on families from rural criminality. Our rural crime team for the whole force is 1 sergeant and 3 constables, and there's a vacancy in there at the moment. So we've got 3 full-time people basically looking at patterns and processes of rural crime. It's the same regionally. There's a very finite resource that can be given to rural crime because we have to decide what are our priorities. This is going to sound very brutal, but our priorities for Avon and Somerset are violence against women and girls, they are child exploitation, and they are crimes against vulnerable adults and supporting vulnerable adults. Now that's a very broad brush because actually that will cover exploitation around drugs. It will cover the things that you would say are serious crime. It will cover knife crime. With the finite resource we have, and just to put it into perspective, I know we spoke about this last time, even with the government uplift for the Safer Streets initiative in the summer, the area you're talking about, East Somerset, has 40 constables in the neighbourhood team. So, and on duty in any one shift. So the response teams, the teams 24/7 come to the emergency when you call 999, they will have between 10 and 14 people on duty for all of East Somerset. And my neighbourhood teams, 40 strong, will work a five shift pattern. So you've always got single figures in that team as well. So when you're talking about 20 to 25 officers on duty at any one time for the expanse that is East Somerset with all those towns and complexities, in terms of patrols, we have to be really realistic. But does that mean that just because people don't see the police can't engage in a different way? And you know, you make a really good point there about if you email someone and they change, they move. Yes, we do. We do check. Policing never sees anyone stay still for more than 3 years on average. So we do move it with a real frustration for communities. But our Safer Streets initiative in the summer that uplifted by 9 constables in Somerset East, 9 constables in Somerset West, that also saw an investment in how we are on our online platform. So you say you don't know who is, you know, moving and how to contact. Actually, online, and that's not great for everyone, but online, if you were to put in Wincanton Police Station, you'll see exactly who's who, their contact number, and what their 3 priorities are for the next fortnight. And that is rigorously updated. We've got 100% compliance in that, rigorously updated every 2 weeks, because the government recognise we are absolutely terrible to get hold of because we are not seen on the streets, that context I've set, and how do you do it? So that online footprint and all the contact numbers and all the faces is on there and it's up to date, never more than 2 weeks out of date. And please hold me to account if that's not the case. How we then prioritise where we put people is based on those strategic priorities I talked to you about. So with the finite resource we've got, where's the data telling us where we've got to be to prevent people from serious crime? My personal view, and being in charge of all the resources in Somerset, rural crime, just because it hasn't met our strategic threat assessment, for me, it's the single biggest suicide increaser for young men in business. And if we don't say that's a vulnerable adult issue, then what is?
Exactly.
So in terms of my commitment with the teams I have, I've changed what the rural crime teams do because they can't investigate with 3 of them. They can't investigate every rural crime, and there will be things that are filed at source. Filed at source simply means that if there's absolutely no way we're ever going to detect this, we cannot give a resource to come out and see someone in the context I said. But we should be saying, really sorry, we're filing this because it's undetectable. You know, a strimmer's taken from a garage that's unlocked in the middle of a field, no CCTV, that sort of thing. But we do record it and it bases an intelligence picture so that we know where there's patterns of theft. And we absolutely know where our serious and organised crime groups are that live in Somerset and that are stealing stuff and sending it out of the country. We know where they are and there is work going on. So it's about how we target harder the most serious offenders in that. And what does intelligence picture say about where we put my 14 officers that will be on duty tonight through the dark hours in Somerset East? Where am I going to plot them? Where do they know they've got to plot on the 303, the 371? Where are we putting them so we've got the best chance of catching the perpetrators? And how do we make sure that rural crime team links in with their PCSOs that own a rural beat? So every rural village, every rural community knows who their PCSO is. And that is my commitment, because you need to know that we care when something's gone wrong and that we are doing everything we can. They won't necessarily be responding to every individual report. It will never be that, because we just haven't got enough people.
Thank you very much. Can I bring in the Deputy Crime Commissioner, Mr. Slocum, please? And then the chairman wants to add a question to something you've just said, if I may. So
I'll be very brief as well. Just on the subject of farm crime, the Chief Constable and myself met with the Somerset NFU leaders and some local farmers in the last 3 or 4 weeks, actually. I mean, Lisa's right about the challenges of the geography, but one of the things we thought was a real challenge was that there's hundreds of farmers in a group applying data to each other about crime and criminals. And one of the challenges was how that does interact with the police systems, really. And so there is a strand of work. We've had a conversation about that in police headquarters since. There is a strand of work looking at how we can access that data better and quicker to try to tackle, which obviously is being dealt with Lisa and her team, and the sergeant she refers to within that room as well. So we are aware of that, why that data has been a problem, and that's trying to be put right.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. The one, before I go to councillor Bailey, I just wanted to ask a question. The website, I think Somerset and Avon website, if somebody can do something about that, I would be really grateful. You go on there and you find a PCSO for your area, never seen them, don't know who they are, they look lovely in the picture, no contact details, nothing at all. I would want to send them an email to explain something that's happened. Can they give me an update? There is no direct link. Now, this is really old-fashioned and beyond belief that on your Somerset and Avon website, that you should be able to. Now, I get the idea that you're going to get lots of people you don't want to. I get that, but there should be a filter system. But I want to be able to click on my person, say to them, you're my community officer, or I have a problem here. Somebody's parking outside, really causing major problems, bit of a row, but there's no direct link. You've got to go back out, got to go back into the 151, find the officer. It takes you ages. Why? When they want a counsellor, they find the counsellor with the name, the email, everything. They find our blood supply on there. Why can't we have that for the police?
So the contact, I don't disagree, it's frustrating for you. What we have to be really careful for, because we don't forget we're a 999 emergency service. What has happened is people that don't necessarily have the same scruples or intelligence or willingness to do the right thing will try and leave something really serious on that email if we do it a link directly to person, and that person might be off for 4 days. So it's not infallible that we get the right person to the thing that is serious quickly. So it should be really easy because there's a contact us. If you put in any area you live, it should pull up you're right straight away, the station and the people responsible, and then there's a contact us, and that goes into a mailbox, and we have to respond within 72 hours. It will connect you to your person, and then that person will engage with you. I mean, if you found that frustrating, I would take that outside, but the contact system is now really clear, but it doesn't offer an immediate response. It offers 72 hours, and then it directs you if you're unhappy or there's something really urgent happening, calling 999, obviously.
I would say it doesn't happen, and it could be down to resource. I do understand that, but what I'm saying is to be able to leave an email, to be able to leave something where you can say to somebody, "Can you contact me as soon as possible?" Appreciating the 4 days on, 4 days off. I get all that. I just think that it's the frustration. You have to go back out then and wait 20 minutes on 151, trying to get through to the station, trying to get through to something. When you go down the bottom, it doesn't connect. It doesn't work. It might mean to, but it doesn't. I'm getting this complaint all the time.
Noted, I'll take it away. There definitely is a way to contact on that website without ringing. You should never have to ring if it's not an emergency.
Well,
but yeah, I'll sort it out.
Thank you so much. Okay, Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. If I could just make a general point to start with, really, could we have introductions around the room when the meeting starts, so we know who's what? I can't see the cards from here, and probably ideally what role they have in the presentation and when they're going to come in and come out. That'd be useful. Just a general point. So, firstly, thank you for the presentation and the papers. I'm going to focus on those particularly. But firstly, I'd like to thank the police for their support in the Bartok area. Where we tend to know the PCSOs. They haven't changed a lot frequently, but they do. And I'm involved with a number of youth groups where they drop in now and again. It is now and again. But they are there when we need them. And I think that's the issue about whether they should come to meetings. I want to make another point, actually, which is about the community involvement, which is one of the slides in the presentation. I've been talking rurally. I tend to focus urbanly, and I know that point's been made already. But particularly with lifting the profile of the police, and I'm not sure how you reconcile this one. I haven't seen a police presence at the parish council meeting for some years. And whilst I appreciate that getting to every meeting is quite difficult, they could be doing something more positive. From the public's perspective, then they don't see the police. So it's a matter of whether that's a PR exercise or what, but dropping in occasionally. Locally, I think we're well supported, but I just think that's something that might be addressing the public perception that the police aren't about, as opposed to whether they should be spending their time there. First thing really I want to pick up particularly is in the Azrai, unless I've pronounced it correctly. How does that get referred up to those two groups in the east and west? How do the incidents get referred up? So if I had an incident in Martok, and we've often been involved in multi-agency meetings like that, I think there were 13 agencies, one of them we were at. How would that move up into the tier that you're looking at? I'll take the questions one at a time and come back if there are others.
Sorry, so there's two points that I'd come back to PCC meeting at the parish council meeting at the end if you want me to, or do you want me to answer that now about the parish council visibility?
Please now, yeah.
So I forget how many parish councils we got because I did have 320 something, but that was when I had North Somerset. So however many parish councils there are in Somerset, 200 and something? Thank you. So in that context, this is going to sound, Councillor Bailey, again, like I'm making excuses. Please don't. I want to make sure our teams engage with you all how you want them to engage. But if there are more than 200 meetings in the diary that happen however regularly, and my beat team are 40 strong working shifts, actually they never align. So we do change our shifts regularly. There's a particular issue or an invite to the parish council to talk about something specific where we can, we always will. But it's just the math just doesn't work for us to be able to do that with any great meaning. But what we have got is the LCNs. There has been frustration with the LCNs. They don't align with necessarily the geographic areas, and they haven't necessarily worked in line with. We need to work better in the partnership to say where do they get scheduled so that the partners that people want to see, and it's always the police in fairness, are able to attend. And I don't think we've got that bit right. So I'll take that away to say, where are we with that? I know Heather would help me with that. But the parish council, the LCNs were meant to bring the chairs of the parish councils together so that we had a chance of being at all of them, all of the time, to give all of the updates. So it's not ideal that all the councillors that come to the parish, but it does give us the ability to service the parish council chair. That's it. The bits around how you refer in. So if you've got good engagement with your PCSOs, anything that's escalating, if you raise with PCSOs, makes it into the partnership intelligence arena and then gets listed accordingly. It's simple as that. It's about having the one of the partners aware of what the issues you want to raise. Police will definitely get in there because it's police chaired, so it will be very smooth.
Thank you. The LCN is really regarded by a lot of parish councils as a waste of time, so probably not the right vehicle. But I was really thinking about raising the profile. And I appreciate there are 279 PCPs, so you're not going to get to all of them. Moving on to my next question. Thanks for the growing up issue. The one that I think Lucy raised in her presentation about struggle to embed the learning review lessons. How do you see you overcoming that?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We talk about this a lot, don't we? I think we had the Safe Somerset Partnership main board meeting yesterday. We had the exactly same conversation again there. I think what we find is that across, I do apologise, I'm very blocked up. What we find is that when you look across the other mechanisms where we're learning from reviews, so serious case reviews, children's, adults, domestic homicides, thematically we're coming up with the same things over and over, which becomes quite frustrating. So what we're looking at is how can we work more thematically together to learn those lessons. So rather than focusing on very specific actions, and if we've embedded those, it's more strategically, what are we trying to achieve and how can we do that better across our various functions? How can we make it more effective in how we embed these? So the work we're doing, which links to Lisa mentioned earlier about how we're reviewing our partnership arrangements, we're looking at how can we create better ways of working in that space. So how do we bring together the right people around the table to look at those thematic learning and how we can embed those better?
So anyway,
Hang on a minute, Councillor Bailey. We just lost the connection. Can you hear us again, please?
Yeah.
Can you hear us online?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody okay? Thank you, super. Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Lucy, for that response. What do you see the role of this particular committee in helping you?
Sorry, can you just repeat that one?
Thank you, Lucy, for your answer. What do you see the role of this committee in helping you with your struggles to embed the learning points?
Oh, I think it's being interested. I think one of the things that really helped us when we had lots of change around the domestic abuse agenda, we came back to this group with a focus item. So I think quite often it's having the understanding of what we're trying to achieve. And what we find with the embedding the learning is that there's so many different aspects of that. It can be each piece of learning can be very, very different. So I think it's us trying to almost compartmentalize that learning to the bits that are relevant for you and presenting that back so you understand what we're trying to achieve, because a lot of the work that we're doing, particularly in this space, is quite removed from your day-to-day business here.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you. Sorry, I just had a lot of hands up. We were doing the technical bit here. I apologise. Could I have who wants to speak? I've got Councillor Wales next, but after that,
That's all.
Councillor Wales.
Yeah, I haven't finished yet.
Oh, right.
Question. Oh, sorry. I thought we were here to ask questions.
We are, but I just want to make sure everyone's fair and we have time is moving on rapidly. So if you could just
Yeah, I've been waiting for about half an hour. Thank you. I don't know whether Heather was going to respond to my question, but my final question is the one which everybody asked: is what could you widen out what the growth bit is? I couldn't really pick that one up, so that's just reinforcing.
I didn't get an answer on it, so.
Yeah, I can answer that one if or Heather.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you.
So yeah, so the growth bid went in quite a few months ago, which is part of our MTFP process for the council. So the officer that I'm putting a growth bid in for is a temporary member of staff. I put a growth bid to make it a permanent member of staff. So the ask is not for you to approve. That's not appropriate for this forum. It's just to support the work that we're doing to try to get that in place. So it's more for awareness and transparency for this group. So it's just to ask for support as opposed to approve.
Thank you very much, Lucy. I think, okay. Thank you very much. I do respect the fact that everyone's got questions and I just want to make it fair for everyone. Before I go to Councillor Well, I just want to say one thing, please. I don't particularly want police officers at the parish council meetings. I want them doing the job they're supposed to be out there. They have enough meetings, but what we do in Bridgewater, we have a police forum and we have a special new time when we have that in Bridgewater Town Council. And the police come along then and they answer questions and it really works well. And I think that's a good time for them to be able to come forward, answer questions. And if they can't, they come back and they come back to us rather than having to go to various 279 parish councils. It's just not feasible. So I would urge everyone to, in their parishes, to perhaps do that, have a separate one. But would you like to?
Yes, thank you. That's really helpful. And I think what I would say though is that the way in which we engage with the rural communities in Bridgewater, that's absolutely right, works well. Thank you for that feedback. It's very difficult in rural communities to get that level, and that's where I think that if the LCNs, and I think I would agree with you that it's challenged. I'm not sure that's the language you use, but I think it's challenged. If it was to work the way it was set up to work, it would be that visibility and engagement piece where people can talk about what their partnership issues are. And I think that we should work to make that happen because outside of large collaborations, it's not working.
No. Yeah. Thank you very much. Councillor Whale.
Yes, thank you very much. Martin Whale from Chard. Going back to the report and the start of the report, really, I think it was something that you said in one of the presentations that there seems to be a lot of overlapping in the whole process of the various groups which make part of the partnership, and they all seem to be doing something of the same. And I've also brought this point up on the police panel because the police commissioners panel has various and very similar to these actually, and they also seem to overlap all over the place. And I realise that there is statutory duties involved here, and I was looking at the statutes, and obviously they get tacked on every now and again. And there's a new one every time there's a bit of legislation, someone tacks on, and it comes on to this partnership without any normally without any new funding, and normally without actually improving matters too much, because there isn't the facilities. And I just wondered what, if any, the partnership and the whole community is trying to do to try and make this more direct, more manageable, really. Because I'm looking at those charts at the beginning of this report, you just turn off, really. It's just a matter of is this just a lot of meetings, to be frank about it. And it sometimes in other forums as well appears that way. And is there any work being done? I suppose my question, so is there any work being done to try and make this more manageable and also therefore improve the outcomes?
We've probably got to speak there. I couldn't agree with you more. There is too much duplication, there's too much overlap, there's too much pressure on senior leaders to go to the same meetings, not the same meetings, different meetings where there is overlap. My ask of this meeting would be that there is work going on. In fact, I've got a meeting with the CEO personally this afternoon. We started this work 13 months ago. I think the blocker in trying to refine the structure and make sure that we're really delivering outcomes with vulnerability, which is what all of these structures talk to, is going to need an investment. It's going to need an investment to save. And until we have that investment, we're not going to really bring meaning to it, because actually we need business structures, data structures, and then teams that can see the flow of the actions that come out, all of the premature death reviews, whichever ones we want to talk to. And I think it's a priority for Somerset personally.
Can I just cover very briefly?
Yes, sir.
The other side of that is relying on grants is not the way forward for this sort of work. And I think that's something we as a committee could put a very strong point in about. Relying on grants is not the way to do this sort of function.
This is what I said in the beginning. So thank you. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say thank you all for the presentation today. It's been really interesting. And I think in general, I'd like to say I support what I can hear as the overall direction, which is working to strengthen the governance and to improve the processes that enable all of the partners to engage more effectively, but also to improve the communication between partners. And I think I'm going to pick up on what a lot of other councillors, my colleagues, have said already, so hopefully not repeating too much, but please, it's just a plea to consider Somerset councillors as a partner. We talked about liaising with parish councillors and everything, but you said earlier about the Operation Azrai that if you're in Bridgewater, you will no doubt have heard of this. I'm a division councillor for Bridgewater North and Central, and I've not heard of this operation before. So that's a big red flag for me. That might be my fault. Maybe I've missed something. I've gone through my emails while we've been in the meeting just to check I didn't miss anything. But we can be helpful, and we can be like Councillor Slocum said, we are available as a contact very readily for people. Local residents contact us all the time, and we can be a help. We can be a link between the TCSOs and the residents. We can help to filter. So please just put us up there as a partner and include that in your work that you're doing. But generally it's pretty good work, so I'm really encouraged to see that approach being taken. And then I want to ask the community voices, could I even after the meeting could I have a bit more detail about who the members of the community voices forum are, when the meetings take place? Is it possible to signpost people to it? Is it a closed group? Just a bit more information about that, but I'm happy to have that offline after the meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I can do that for you, Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you very much. The one thing we might be scrutiny, but I think one thing you must take back is we're all on the same side. We want what you want. Okay, we want the best possible outcome, and so this is why it's good to come this way. Tell us what you need. We've got Heather here, who's a stalwart in forcing things forward. So this is the good thing. We are all on the same side. So you know, you're not in a black hole here at all. Okay, so I'm going to go to my last speaker on this because I do think we've given 2 hours to this. Hope everybody's happy with that. I don't think I've been a bit needy, but okay, and I didn't get anything online, so I'm going to go to Councillor Trimnell, please.
And thank you, Chair. No, all I was coming back on is I haven't had an answer about the growth, and I wanted to know that before we sort of showed our support for it, just what it was. And Councillor Bailey followed it up. So that was all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you. My last question was, I wanted to ask you about the shared data. You just touched on it. I think this is significant. I've been a councillor for a long, long time. And I think I've been asking about shared data for as long as I can remember. And I know shared data would help you in dealing with difficult cases, that you would know their medical notes, you would know suicidal people, you would know all the elements about things. And I think we've got to force this forward for shared data to help you, to help hospitals, doctors, everybody. We should be all having the same unified ideas about getting our information out that will make your lives a lot easier. And I would urge, if you could take that back, Mr. Deputy Commissioner, as well, strongly, as your name is my name, I know you will, and I would appreciate that. And Heather, can I just finally come to you?
It's music to everyone's ears that everyone wants the data shared really well. Just at the Safe Sunset Partnership yesterday, we were looking at agreeing tier 1, which is that overarching data sharing agreements to make sure they're right with all of our partners. We also have other examples anyway already in existence in the Somerset area, along with the police and health, on our Transform Family View, a database which pulls together information from other partners. So we're working really hard on it. I hope the days when it was, oh, we can't do that for data protection is behind us now. We just have to make sure that the systems, and all of us, I think all partners have got creaky systems, and the systems are only as good as the information that goes in them. But I think there's a real desire now to actually find ways that we can connect, and Somerset is doing quite a lot of work on it itself to be smarter, I think, with the change that's going through transformation at the moment, and with our partners, we're doing the same. So yeah, thank you.
And my last plea, I just wanted to thank you for today, but to also say to you, can you please still keep up the good work that you're trying to get into schools to teach our children, to educate our children, that they think carrying a knife or carrying a weapon is protecting them. It's not. They become the perpetrator. Please carry on the good work that's doing there, because if we can teach our very, very young the right way, then the future is going to look a lot brighter.
That's really kind of you. And just to go back to the first point, I haven't felt anything other than an awful lot of support in the room, and I would want you all to be honest. That's absolutely great. Well, I've heard, I can take back quite a few actions. A bit about education, I'm going to come back on that. We absolutely want to be in schools where we can. The whole trauma-informed approach to teaching, plus the teaching agenda, plus the policing remit, doesn't allow us to get into. We can be visible in schools in our daily activity, but we are not the educator in schools. We have to press on the schools programs to have the education fees that are required. And I think that is a partnership approach. And I wouldn't want anyone to think that we don't go to school, there's not enough of our resources. It's not led by us. We can leave out assist. So as members, you need to push in the education sphere what you want us to help with, because we don't own it.
No, so obviously I'm as governor of school, so I've been pushing this before, and I have to say some schools are a little bit horrified. You know, they don't want the school to look like, you know, there's police kind of connection, but I think they're actually realising now the worth of that. So I think all governors, I put a plea out to all governors to do this, because I think it is so essential. Heather, before I come to you, if I may, Councillor Lee Redmond, just asked a question. I didn't see Lee's hand. Apologies, Lee, if you did. He said Operation Asra sounds amazing. Where do local community representatives like councillors fit in, which is what Councillor Bruce said? Are they part of the communication process? Asking as councillors are part of the local community and can be part of any assurance or rumour management. So I think what we're saying is exactly what Councillor Bruce says, that councillors are not just in parishes and towns, they're in Somerset. And we need to link really force, because we do want to know a lot more. We really do. And not just towns where there is issues. We want to be everywhere. So I think what we're asking is open the door to us, open the door and let us help you, and then you can help us. Okay.
Absolutely heard it. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather, sorry, Heather.
Just 30 seconds of reassurance, really. Just want to say around the thing about how best to support children not to get involved with violence of any sort or feel they have to carry knives and so on. The Youth Endowment Fund has done quite a lot of work and analysis on what works in terms of interventions and which don't. And some of the things we've most obviously, some people think, oh, boot camps or, and indeed, talks in schools, they don't always have the most effective outcomes. So everything we're doing as a partnership, we'll be trying to reflect that. So we put as much effort into supporting children to make the right choices, but in the most effective ways. So just want to say that there's a lot of people putting their mind to what the best ways are to do. And if we can do anything to support in schools, we'll do it.
But I want to thank you all today. I'm going to go on the recommendations in a moment, but could I also address the point about Councillor Bailey, who told me off earlier, because he does, that each of the people that did speak did actually say who they were. They did actually say that the Deputy Crime Commission, Superintendent Lisa Simpson, they did. You may not have heard it, and I apologise, but I will take that forward next time to make sure that everybody, all our guests, I do formally tell you, and I apologise if that didn't come over. I'm sorry.
No apology. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, members, we're now going to the recommendation. Is the growth bid submitted to the council to maintain the current resources that support some statutory functions? The proposal to explore opportunities for establishing additional capacity for the Safer Somerset Partnership to help drive improvement activity, and the existing annual grant to be made available to the council for broader domestic abuse activities. Are we all in favour of those recommendations, please? Could you just vote, please, and let me know? I think the other point that was raised is not always relying on grants, not having to rely on grants. I think that's a really important factor, and I think, Heather, I'd like you to take that forward, please, because I think that is unfair for the police to have to rely on that. And I don't agree with that, and I will certainly be banging the drum with you to make things a lot better. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank you today. Thank you, Lucy, for being our go-to person on there. Thank you to Claire. Thank you to Superintendent Lisa Simpson, Mr. Slocum. Lovely to see you again, Mr. Slocum, and Heather, our portfolio holder. Really thank you. This has been really, really a good meeting today. Very enlightening, and thank you and please, if you want to come again to give us any updates on what Councillor Lee Redmond said about the agri-huja. Sorry. I think that would be really good for us to know about these things that are coming in. I think that would be really good for us to hear it. So thank you very much. Thank you. We're now going to give you, I'm going to give you a 10-minute break. So before we go to the next item, thank you very much. Good afternoon, members. We're now ready to start the next part of the meeting. I would ask you, if you, when I may, thank you for coming today.
Sorry, carry on.
Sally and Donna and Melanie, when you start to speak, I would like you to introduce yourselves and give your formal titles, please. I have been reprimanded this morning for not doing that. I'm going to behave myself, so you know. The thing I wanted to say to members is that the NHS people are very, very busy, as we all are, and they do need to leave at 1 o'clock. So we're going to have to keep this quite sharp and short, and keep your questions very precise, please. Okay. So, no, we don't have the portfolio. Oh, she's not here. I'm just going to ask if she wanted to. This is to provide the committee with an update on the provision of maternity care at Yeovil. The committee's previous request has come in sight to access ambulance, particularly in light of the changes to maternity and stroke unit, stroke services in Yeovil. South Western Ambulance Services Trust have provided some information included in the report. If members raise wider concerns relating to the community hospital service chart changes are part of the test and learn programme, this can be raised and considered as part of the meeting in the new year. So we've got a further meeting in the new year. So I would ask is that we keep these questions to today and keep them as, so I'd like to welcome to our NHS colleagues. And I believe it's Leanne Ashman is going to start. Is that right, Leanne? You're starting. Are we going from that way to this way? But if you'd like to formally, if you press the slide in.
Button on the side there. This side. There you go. Good work.
There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Leanne Ashmead. I'm the Director of Children, Young People and Family Services at Somerset Foundation Trust. Thank you very much for having us this afternoon. It's a real pleasure to come back and update you on all the work we've been doing relating to our maternity and paediatric services this afternoon. So I just wanted to start by giving you a quick overview of what we plan to cover in the next sort of 10 minutes or so, and then it would be really nice to open it up for questions and discussion. So we'll start off with a really quick overview around our maternity improvement programme and the update on our CQC action plan for maternity. We'd then like to update you on our temporary closure of our YDH special care baby unit and inpatient maternity services, both in terms of data activity, but also in terms of feedback from service users. And I'm delighted that we brought Donna from our Maternity and Neonatal Voices partnership with us this afternoon. And then a very quick update on the paediatric situation as well. So I'm going to start by handing it to Fanny.
Thank you, Leanne. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sally Bryant. I'm the Director of Midwifery for SFT, so I cover both Musgrove and Yeovil acute sites and all of our community maternity services across Somerset. So thank you for having us back. As Leanne said, it's a pleasure to come and update you. As you know from previous conversations that we've had, we're on an improvement journey across maternity and neonatal services. I'm delighted to tell you that improvement journey now means that we've been able to close our CQC action plan, which is a fantastic position. And in the paper, you've got a little infographic which gives a little bit more detail around some of the key work streams that we've been working on within our CQC action plan. The important thing I'd like to mention is that our improvement doesn't stop now with the closure of this action plan. This is part of a big journey of improvement across all of our services. We're continuing to work with the Maternity Safety Support Programme, who are supporting us on the development of a really robust maternity and natal improvement plan, of which there are 6 key programmes, and each of those has a number of projects within that. So we're keeping a focus on improvement, and that's working really well at the moment. We've got amazing engagement from the teams. Of course, Donna, who's sat next to me as our MMVP lead, is also intrinsically involved in the development of that plan and also supporting the team to develop and complete action, ensuring that everything is in line with what our service users need and want for Somerset. So we're really delighted to close the action plan, but it's not the end of the road for us by any stretch of the imagination.
Could I just ask you just to stop one moment, please? I'm sorry, there seems to be no sound again. Can you hear me online, please? Anyone hear me? Yes. They're saying they can't hear.
I can hear you. Very
They sent a
clear.
message and said they. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Please carry on. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to give a little update on some of our key areas of continued improvement where we are. So maternity triage has been a huge area of work for us. We continue to evaluate the service to make sure that it is where it needs to be. Maternity triage has been a real increase in demand since the YDH closure. So we're seeing a huge increase in footfall of people using that service, both telephone and voice line and attendance. So we continue to work with the service users and with that triage team. And some of the improvements that we're currently working through are training around compassionate call handling for our staff, putting in place a core triage team. We had previously a number of midwives who maybe did a shift on triage as well as shifts elsewhere, but we now understand that having a core team that work together who focus on triage is going to bring some benefits to that service. So we're working that through at the moment, and we are working again with Donna and the MMVP to take feedback to what the service users experience our triage service to inform work moving forward. So we're very much still focusing on our triage development. We're still continuing a huge amount of work around governance and audit. We've made huge progress in our guideline compliance. We set ourselves a target of a minimum of 75% all guidelines in date compliance, and we have reached that target and exceeded that target, and we continue to drive that forward. Guidelines don't stay in date for very long because of national changes, etc. And as soon as one goes in date, another will have fallen out of date. So there will always be a number of guidelines that require updating, but we have a robust system now to keep an eye on that and make sure that we have continual review and updating as necessary. We continue to
to review our security on our Musgrove site particularly, working really closely with our security team. We've improved the CCTV and swipe access recently as well, so lots of work around security. As you understand, our estate continues to provide us with significant challenges, and with the amount of rain we've had lately, that has been really quite significant. So as you know, we've said before, we are really restrained by our estate, and it does continue to cause us some challenge with our service development. If I may, I'll just go on to give you some of the numbers around our YDH families since we were closed. Live as of this morning, the families that would have had their babies at Yeovil, 215 have had their babies in DCH, 178 over in Musgrove. So it's slightly more of the caseload have gone to digital. So we've continued to work really closely with that team as well. And a number of our midwives are still redeployed to support those women as well. We have had 31 home births in the Yeovil patch since closure, and around 29 babies have been born in other hospitals. And I think I explained when I was here previously that that's about average. Some are referred to specialist units for specialist neonatal care, and it is planned. Some were living closer to Bath anyway, so it's a normal number that we see in some of the other units. We are seeing a steady increase in our home birth rates, but that's across Somerset, not just our Yeovil cohort. And we see that as a success because we now have 2 dedicated home birth teams that work together to provide a service. Now, core home birth midwives, they caseload those women, they attend the birth, and they provide the postnatal care, and we're getting excellent feedback from that women. So we're expecting to see that rate increase, which is really encouraging, and we're very proud of that. We haven't seen a statistically relevant increase in babies born before arrival, so that's people having their babies before either the midwife or the paramedic can get to them, or they can get themselves to the hospital. The numbers have remained pretty static since Yeovil, so that's reassuring as well. And we do continue to have big challenges with our estate, our triage services, with the increase in activity and the sustained increase in activity that we're seeing on our Musgrove site now, which is around 20 to 25% higher than we would normally see on the Musgrove site, and that accounts for the Yeovil caseload. I will pause there if that's okay and hand over to Donna, because I really like Donna to have opportunity to give you some real-time feedback from some of our Yeovil families around their experience of maternity care.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello everybody, I'm Donna Butland. I'm the Senior Lead for Somerset MMVP, which is the Maternity and Neonatal Voices Partnership. So I bring the service user voice into everything the team does. So I've come a few times and I've tried to give reassurance that we're involved and that we're hearing and listening to people. But today I wanted to bring some snippets of feedback that we've had in the last few months. So I will just read it as it is, if that's okay. So I honestly could not fault the staff in my experience. I felt listened to, important, safe and cared for throughout my experience, and I wouldn't change a thing. When I called the unit, it was full, but I knew this could happen and was prepared to need to be flexible. Everyone was lovely, and actually in the end, there was a space. I knew it was busy, but even though my labour slowed down, I was never rushed or made to feel I shouldn't be there. Even when I felt so worried, I was taking someone else's space. Immeasurably grateful to everyone involved. Another lesson just sent, having a maternity triage over 45 minutes away was so stressful. I had to drive 3 times with reduced movements, and the drive there was full of worry and anxiety. Another one, I had the most incredible home birth and wanted to thank Penny, Leah and Rachel for their amazing support. Every single antenatal appointment I had with Penny was informative, friendly and supportive of my choices. I looked forward to seeing her and being able to talk and ask questions about my pregnancy and birth plans without judgment. On the day my baby was born, I again had great support from Penny and Leah. From the first phone call to the moment she was delivered, there wasn't a single moment I felt uncomfortable, stressed or not listened to, and I completely put that down to both of them. I want to thank Rachel for all the reassurance she gave my husband and I on the care after. As first-time parents, we had lots of questions and we weren't made to feel stupid for asking them. All 3 lovely midwives are a credit to YDH, and I hope every expecting mom is lucky enough to have midwives as great as them. And then the final one. I'm new to Somerset, so this was a big shock to me.
but I had a healthy baby girl by a planned C-section in Musgrave and couldn't fault the way we were treated. The midwives and doctors were all lovely, and even though they were busy, they took their time with you. They were patient with me and my other half with all the questions as well. We will be having my second baby at Musgrave in the future, even if the overall maternity service is open and is only 5 minutes away from me. My community midwife made me feel so welcomed and no question was silly. She listened to me and recommended loads of stuff to help. Now I recognise that that's some positive experiences, and we have, heard the ongoing usual things, but that's usually around estates, noisy environment, sharing of information and communication, some of the things that we're often listening to, and that's down to different complexities with human beings, looking after human beings, and personalised care and equitable care and those sorts of things that we continue to advocate and support in the services. But in the main, we are now settling into where people have got over that initial fear and not understanding what was happening and having to make changes, and they're feeling supported, whether they're moving their care to us or Dorchester or the other neighbouring trusts. So just wanted to share a little bit of that.
Thank you very much. Leanne, if you've got something to us, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know, do you want to pause there and have a discussion, or do you want me to crack straight on with the plans around relaunching our services at Yeovil?
Crack on with the
Crack
plan.
on, okay, we'll do that. So, it looks like you're having some problems showing the slides, Jamie.
Those online can see it. It's sharing perfectly on Teams, but we
Perfect.
cannot get it onto the screen, and I don't know why.
Don't
So
worry.
obviously we will circulate it after the meeting, but I'm really sorry. It's seemingly beyond us.
I have downloaded it as a PDF and I'm putting it in the chat right now for
Okay,
everyone to have.
so it will be in the chat for those others, but yeah, it's those online are able to see it.
Brilliant, thank you. So if we can move on to the slide for those online, which is YDH relaunch programme structure. Those of you who are familiar with this kind of way of working, this will sound quite basic, but I thought it would be helpful to put diagram in front of you because it is complicated. And I just want to give you some assurance around the level of complexity of governance around this so that we really are ensuring successful delivery of safe relaunching of services at Yeovil. So as you all know, excitingly, we're planning to relaunch our YDH services from the 21st of April 2026. But between now and then, we've got a long journey to go on, and the way that we've organised that is into a complex but comprehensive work programme structure. So those who can see the diagram, we have divided up the enormous amount of work, which goes beyond just improvement work, because it's almost like setting up a new service from scratch, because just as we've cancelled the catering services from the labour ward, for example, at YDH, we need to make sure that they're reinstated, so that they're there when the women return to the service. So it really is like an entire service relaunch with the improvement work on top, and with some new colleagues as well around who we need to be integrated. So we've divided the work into 5 project areas. So we have one on workforce training and skills development, a second on clinical pathways and continuity of care, and that pretty much focuses on the ongoing interface between Somerset services and Dorset County Hospital services. A third project is around governance, safety and learning. Our fourth is leadership, culture and professional standards, and the fifth is around digital security, estates and facilities. So each of those projects is currently being led by one of my senior leadership team. And those groups are meeting weekly or fortnightly, depending on the topic, overseeing the real detail of the work that needs to happen. And we have got the most horribly complex project that which is chaired by myself. And that then goes on into a further governance structure just to ensure we've got the maternity collaboration oversight group, which is chaired by the Chief Operating Officer, Sandy Heron at SFT, or Anita Thomas at DCH. And that is very much looking after the elements of this relaunch that cross over between the two counties. And that's really important for our service users who are living on the border. And for those who will continue to receive their care over at DCH for a period This also then reports into our executive committee for that FFT trust oversight, as well as safety champions, and then on to our trust board. So you'll see there's quite a rigorous structure around it, and then equally there's an ICB and enhanced oversight group for good measure as well, just to ensure that we are overseeing all areas of this adequately. This is making good progress so far. This has been in operation now for about the last 3 weeks, and all of those groups are now set up and running, and we've got our first programme assurance board next Monday, I believe it is. So we'll start to get some really up-to-date progress, and then obviously within that we're also overseeing all the risks and issues, quite a comprehensive risk register, including a joint one with Dorset County Hospital, as well as ensuring that we report to the right places. Is there anything you would like to add, Mel, around the relaunch?
I think you've covered that really well, Leanne. I'm not sure there is. Sorry, I'm Melanie Isles. That's Melanie Isles. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at Somerset Foundation Trust. I'm the muscle backup today. I did lots of the talking last time, though. So, no, I think you've covered that really well, Leanne. We're going to go on to paediatrics in a moment, aren't we? So,
I don't see anything from Musgrove on here. Feedback from Musgrove. Would there be a group from? Are they in here? Because you've got the relaunch program. You've got it all set out. But surely it would be a good idea to have Musgrove, because they're dealing with their whole way of working has been changed, hasn't it, or added to.
I'll answer that if that's okay, Chair. So we very much focused on the impact of the YDH temporary closure. And as I've said, our Musgrove teams are seeing an increase in activity, and we are supported by a number of the YDH staff to help us meet that additional demand. This has been actually really quite positive for us after some initial teething challenges of bringing 2 teams together, and people are starting to look at things across county now, and we've put some developments into some of the services that we're offering to make them SFT and stop that YDH MPH kind of legacy divide that we previously had. Some of our specialist teams have now become cross-county specialist teams, so when we reopen they are a new looking team working closely together for the whole community rather than being same. So that's really positive. We haven't included specific feedback from our Musgrove and there are a number of staff saying when we reopen, I would really like to still do some shifts at Musgrove to keep in contact with these teams and for us to share good learning and practice across. But that's a real unanticipated positive.
Relocating staff, they get settled then, and would they want to come back to you? And that's the one thing that we've been very concerned about. You haven't had that though. You've got them. They're happy to relocate back.
Yes, absolutely. The Yeovil staff are very, very excited about reopening, but they don't want to lose some of the benefits that they've experienced since closure. So we are happy to support that, and it does give us more flexibility across the county. And I think it's really important that we start looking in the future at staffing our service users rather than staffing buildings, and this is going to really help us to do that.
But we need to pass on our really appreciation to all your staff who've had a very difficult time, those in Yeovil and those obviously at Musgrove who are having to do extras and working together. But this is pleasing news, I'm sure the committee, but I just want you to send that thanks back, please. Is it all right for questions now? Are you happy? Okay. Councillor General.
Thank you very much. So firstly, an observation, Donna, the people who spoke on behalf of, I was really surprised by some of them. The lady who said about taking someone else's place, and that wasn't something I ever had to think about. I just assumed when I have my children that my place was my place, because if I didn't have my place, that baby was going to be born somewhere. Do you get what I mean? You know, and so it's been incredible that women have had to feel that way or think that way. But I mean, one thing I want to say is that when you first came to us a few months ago, and everyone looked so worried, and it was such a sad time, and so it's I'm really, really pleased to see you all here with positive news and positive stories. It's such a relief actually, and I'm too old to have any more children, but it does feel like a relief that things are back on track and that there's a positive end to this story, because I don't think we always felt that there might be. One question I have, when you do reopen, will it be on a full-on doors are open, everybody who would have come here can come here, or are you going to do it as a staggered reopening, cesarean still being done here, or whatever? How is that going to look?
I'll answer that, that's okay. That's a really good question, and I wish there was an easy answer. It's one of the work streams that Leanne spoke about, is around the clinical pathways. That is the question that we're trying to answer for ourselves. Because of the very nature of pregnancy, people are not on the pathway at the same place at the same time. It's very difficult. We also support and advocate women having choice. So some people who may have been the traditional YDH families may say, actually, I've had some of my care at DCH or some of my care at Musgrove, and therefore I would like to stay there for my birth. Thank you very much. So we don't yet know until we do that what people might choose. So we're working through what options we do have at our disposal, and there are a number, as you said, of we could reinstate some services and do a kind of phased reopening. There are risks around all of those as well, because people do turn up, and that's complicated, and some of the messaging that we'll work with Donna around what reopening looks like are going to be absolutely critical for everybody's safety. But what I would say is we are working to a full reopening. That is our ambition. As we move down the line a little bit more with these work streams, then we will be more informed as to whether or not that is actually within our gift. But that is what we are working towards at the moment. Thank you.
I think you deserve a big celebration. Quite frankly, why water it down? So yeah. So Councillor Whale first, then Councillor Bailey.
Thank you. I wasn't in on the earlier discussion, so this is all quite, it sounds very encouraging. The one thing I just picked up, will you still be having the link with DCA?
Absolutely, and like our staffing benefit that we've seen, we've also seen a real benefit working really closely with DCH. There are a number of women who could choose to have care either with us or with DCH, and we've strengthened our care pathways now, so there should be no problem for those women if they choose to go for it. But also our staff that have been redeployed to DCH have taken with them some different skills, some different ways of working, and DCH are looking to develop some of the continuity pathways that we already had in place. So there's a lot of good coming from that as well.
Oh, excellent, thank you.
See, just something I would add to that as well is it's been a really great opportunity for us to build relationships with their leadership team, and it's amazing now how I can just pick up the phone, I can speak to the chief nurse and say, "Oh God, there's a problem with this, can you help?" And even just about ideas around it's been really helpful. So there have been some positives from this difficult situation.
Yeah, great, thank you.
That's very good. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't had personal experience with the services you offer, but apart from being a horrified spectator, but so my questions come from that position really. And firstly, thanks for coming back with this good news and the fact that things are going to get back onto track in April time. Our concerns, and my concerns particularly, were staff at this, and there were two concerns really. One was the shock for the announcement that it hadn't been coming down the tracks. I think it had been, but it was obviously a train crash at the time. Secondly, it was really for the staff, residents, and the service that you're going to offer. And I think I just really reiterate what I said at the time, that there needs to be a clear deadline about the sort of timescale that you're going to operate to, because all the unit was going to close. That was not right, but that was what they were surmising. So I think coming to us with the information saying, although asked on a number of occasions for a timescale that he couldn't do it, I thought it was most unusual. But moving on to the positive side now, I just had a question about the retention of staff really. One of the areas of concern was, have you retained the staff? Are they still with you? It sounds very positive from some of the unexpected elements that you found working across the different units. That's one question. The other one was, do you now, or once the oval's back up and running, not use Dorchester anymore? And I think I'd just like to be reassured on the continuous improvement situation.
I'll answer that. Okay. So we haven't seen an increase in the normal turnover in our staff. So normally 1 or 2 members of staff would go to work elsewhere. There's a little bit of movement. We haven't seen an increase, which has been really reassuring and lovely. We've really worked hard to continue engagement with our Yeovil staff wherever they were deployed, whether they were within SFT or whether they were over in DCH, and we regularly engaged with them. They've kept the same major and had one-to-ones regularly, so that's really helped. So we haven't seen a huge number of staff leaving, which is really positive, and that helps us to have more assurance around the reopening, because we will have enough of our midwifery and neonatal staff to do that. The second question around, or your third question, I apologise, I can't remember the second question. I was just going to talk about DCH. Okay, I'll do that first. So with our strengthened relationships and with the care pathways that we're looking at, we're actually looking to do some cross-border working for the women that live in that area. And actually, it doesn't matter whether you're employed by SFT or DCH, you are a community midwife that works in this area that is able to support the woman, whether they have their baby born at home, whether they go to Musgrove or whether they go to DCH. That midwife, hopefully, that's what we're trying to develop, will be able to provide that care. I think we probably will see a number of women who have gone through their maternity experience now at at Dorchester, who then choose to go back to Dorchester for any subsequent children. And we're likely to see the same on the Musgrove side. That's likely to happen because people are familiar and they've had good experience, etc., etc. But we don't know is sorry, it's a really unhelpful answer. So we expect there to be a number, but most women are expressing that they are looking
Thank you very much.
Continuous improvement. Yeah, thank you. So as I mentioned briefly earlier, the CQC plan is just the start. It's a drop in the ocean. That we are absolutely working on continued improvement in maternity and neonatal services. And we have now developed a huge maternity and neonatal improvement plan, as I said, with the work streams. Our focus is on being even better, and we will not stop until we get CQC outstanding, etc. And we have a really positive support. We have a dedicated program manager for that program as well. We have additional staff in place. We have changed our leadership portfolio, so people have the time and the capacity to focus on certain areas within the work streams. So I'm very confident that we will achieve this. But I think for me, there is never an end date for improvement in maternity and neonatal services. Communities evolve and change. There is always new guidance. There is always national safety initiatives, particularly in maternity care. And so there won't be a day when we won't have a maternity and neonatal improvement plan.
So we shouldn't see a point where we fall off a cliff edge like we did this last occasion.
Not if I have anything to do with it and I can help with it.
Let me just make one more point. I wondered, with all your themes and the 6 programs, key programs, whether it be possible, like we do in some areas of this council, to present the report back on a sort of traffic light basis. So we've got sort of red, green, or amber, whatever it is.
Yeah, certainly.
Quite a lot of words in there, but I think there's key bits are quite succinct, really.
We're just developing the very fancy data system that they're keeping track of all of this, and there is a reporting function in there that we'll use to report to our board, etc. So absolutely more than happy we'll share that once we put it in place.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say before I go to the portfolio holder, have we had any effects? Have we got any feedback on Musgrove? How it's gone for them? Because they've obviously had a massive increase in births there, and they're already in a very old building. We've already tried very hard. We won't give up. We'll try again. But it would be nice to know how they've done as well.
I would say on the whole, there's been a really good, we are going to help everybody and we roll up our sleeves and do everything we can. There have been some snagging issues, as you would expect, like I said before, bringing the 2 teams together, and we are massively restrained by our building, and it is very challenging to be able to accommodate everybody that we need to in the way we would want to. It does put very complex staffing challenges in place for us. But all in all, the staff have embraced it, because most people come to work to deliver amazing care to our service users, and they are still doing that despite those challenges, and Sunna's feedback is testament to that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it though. I would say the demand has been excessive, coupled with the scrutiny that we have been under as part of, the CQC and also now as part of the national investigation. That's very challenging for our staff on the shop floor to continue to turn up every day or every night, and the morale has taken a hit. I'm not sure whether that is anything to do with the overclosure or whether it's maternity services in general, and we're not alone in that. I would say it's a theme across the land.
Yeah, we're well aware of the 4 services that they're working under, and we just want them to know that we will do all we can. We'll continue to badger as much as we can our portfolio holder. I know we'll do the same because we do want a better unit for Musgrove as well. So I'm going to to the portfolio holder, Sarah.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your reassurance this morning and for what you've presented to us. I just wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to say that I hope that within your units there are lessons learned from what happened certainly when you came to present to us and the public was told, because there was a sense of shock amongst the staff. I'd feel that you had to do this, you had to go to this closure, but it is all about safety at the end of the day, and I got that. But because you weren't able to say when, because there's lots of things that have happened since then, but there's no doubt that the public and certainly some of this committee were not reassured that it was going to reopen. And I think a better answer about why we need that number of maternity beds or whatever it is, maternity unit facilities in Somerset would have helped. And I think the reassurance was not strong enough, which is why you got MPs doing petitions. This must reopen. And I thought, I knew you would reopen it. I'm sure. But I think that was a lesson to be learned. And the second thing I wanted to say was that my understanding, and I wanted to ask if there's a generational change going on. One of my friend's daughters just had her baby at home because she asked if she could go into Musgrove, and they said not yet. Now, this was her first baby and it was a 3-hour labour, so it's very difficult to know what's going to happen. She is actually a doctor, and so is her husband. Actually, her partner works actually in the emergency department. Even he was quite sure what to do, I think. But the paramedics arrived just after the baby born. Everything's absolutely fine. So I know that can happen. And I think I just want to emphasise, I'm interested in the generational change because every person's experience of labour is individual. I had 3 babies and all the experiences were different. Successful, normal deliveries, but different. Different hospitals actually as well. But my daughter, who's 30, who hasn't got any children yet, said, well, I have whatever pain you can give me straight away. I don't want anybody. I didn't think of it like that because I've said to her, labour is called that for a reason. It's an effort. But I just wondered whether you were finding that people are more demanding. They're more knowledgeable about birth. I mean, we had a few classes and they talked a bit about it. Said what we shouldn't be doing, but didn't tell us anything about what to do with the baby once it came, which wasn't very helpful. But I just wondered so my second point is there a generational change going on about how much people know, how much they want to know, and how much they want to be in control? Because I was happy to hand over to them.
I will start. Good questions and difficult ones about the decision to close and the communication. And we talked here before about how the decision was made at a relatively short period of time. Just to recall, it was because of the safety of the paediatric services and the lack of consultant staff, which was an acute issue, and so we did have to make a very quick decision. And I think we just must remember that we closed because we were concerned about safety. Actually, quite a brave thing to do when particularly around all of the backlash and everything that then happened subsequently. I mean, we just look across the country. There are lots of issues at the moment with neonatal services across the country. Where actually some trusts are being, taken and prosecuted for manslaughter. And have people have covered up safety issues, and I think we just need. I think quite brave, and we just got to kind of remember that. See, it was a shock to everybody. We really tried to make sure that we informed our staff first, as quickly as possible. All of the women who were booked to have a delivery at Yeovil. but also the sort of the wider political and all of our partners. But there was a really quite short time frame when we had to do that. And just on the sort of the learning that we talked about, you know, we really in health, we know healthcare, there are things wrong, they don't always go right, it's a risky business, and our whole, you know, Somerset wide, you know, what we're really about is that continuous improvement in all of our services. So not just maternity and obstetrics, but across all of our services, that continuous learning and trying to learn ourselves, but also from others when things go wrong, but even more about how, you know, what are our futures, our services fit for the future, and what do they need to look like. There was another comment, I'll stop in a second because I know Donna wants to come in, and I'm going to ask Sally to ask the next generation question. There was another comment one now. I forgot.
It's about public trust. I mean, to me, the question I was asking was about public trust, because although you said you were going to reopen, there was definitely it might be a means of closing it, which, looking at the public place in Somerset and where it's spread, seemed to me completely wrong. That would be the wrong thing to do. It could be busing people all over the place. But that the public were not convinced.
Yeah. So well, I think we were honest, and I think we said we couldn't make an announcement and give a timeline immediately because we didn't know, because this was around the recruitment of the consultant paediatricians. And there had been 5 lots of rounds of attempting to recruit consultant paediatricians that had been unsuccessful. So that was where we were, and we were very open and honest about that, and did not know. And as you will know from the paper, we did manage to successfully recruit 4 paediatricians, and we're out again for advert, and hopeful that we're going to get an additional one. That was due to the really hard work and the leadership of the paediatric consultants who previously worked at Musgrove and now work across both Musgrove and Yeovil, and really having very honest conversations with subsequent candidates about some of the opportunities and challenges as well. So until we got that bit in place, it was very difficult for us to then plan and have a timeline around reopening. And we're very aware of our geography. We're really aware of, you know, the remote and rural. But as we've talked about before, we have a small unit with relatively small numbers of deliveries, and hence that's why we're looking Somerset model, and how, you know, how we can keep our staff up to date and keeping enough, you know, exposure to enough of everything to keep their skills really up to date, to make sure that our services continue to sort of be high quality. I'll stop and I'll let Donna come in.
Yeah, I'm just conscious of time, so I don't want you to be, I know you've got to be somewhere else.
I'll be really quick. I think some of what's been said really shows the value of having a layperson who understands what's important for those people who are actually pregnant, who actually need to be at the centre of everything right now. And from day one, when I was involved with this, I said, please don't tell people it's going to be 3 months, if it's going to be 6 months or 12 months. Be realistic in what it is, and make sure that you know that can be communicated, so people are not able, if they're not able to go and look at other organisations, have conversations, make decisions and think, I don't need to do that because it'll be fine in 3 months. It needed to be realistic, and that's been, you know, important to me through all of this. We're even seeing that, you know, we may open in line with, you know, the safety criteria in April, but actually it's also unpredictable with regards to what people are going to do, and what the organisation is going to look like when they do reopen, that we need to focus on making sure those people are having the information that they need. And I think the thing about, you know, everybody's an individual, that is so important. Everybody's experience. Sometimes people say, I don't really want to hear everybody else's experience because that influences me and how I feel. And I think we need to stop worrying about what people want, why they want, whether they want to have a home birth or a cesarean, whatever those things are. I'm really focusing on personalising care and following that person through a journey, rather than making judgments, biases, our own opinions impacting how how that's going to, look for somebody. We need to just focus on those individuals because you just don't know. It's unpredictable.
Thank you very much. I mean, I have to say, I'm surprised really that there's more births. In cars going to Musgrove, trying to park in Musgrove. You've had your baby starting university time you get out. I mean, it's just that's what you need help with, I think, as well. You know what I mean? It's like that must be so stressful. Do you know what I mean? When you're trying to find a place. I'm terrible. Anyway, sorry.
I think in Musgrove, they just drop them off at the door.
Yeah, I suppose they do. I suppose they do. But you're going to have somebody.
But anything else you're trying to access, I understand.
Oh, it's just very hard for them,
Yeah.
and it's at the back, and I always think that's not the right place for maternity, but there you are. My husband would have just chucked me at the door if he could have.
Well, of course, one of the car parks, of course, was part of the next stage of the new hospital programme. So of course we've had to stop any building on that because there was going to be an additional car park. Just thought I'd get that in about.
Yeah, thank you about that, because it's not your fault, and we need to. The car parking is essential. You've got to have the things that knit together. I'm going to go now to Claire's. Councillor Sully.
Chair, can I ask permission to ask Melanie a wider question?
It depends how wide.
Okay, and Melanie, feel free to a written response if that's okay. But stop me if you want. It's about as your chief medical officer, and what's been in the headlines is that hospitals are bracing themselves for once in a decade flu season, with a mutated version of the virus that's spreading widely in young people, expected to drive a wave of admissions. And we're told that NHS managers are redoubling efforts to vaccinate staff and communities, but they're saying that they're looking at emergency care in our communities. And the question, obviously, please respond in writing. Now our community beds are closed in the community hospitals. The provision has to be in the community. Are we ready for this? But feel free to come back to me. But it's just this is in the headlines at the moment.
Yeah. I think we're digressing slightly.
I can quickly say that I think the most important thing is for people to get themselves vaccinated.
Yes.
Both community, both patients at risk, everybody can go and get a vaccination, and certainly that's what we're doing with all of our staff. I don't think a small number of closure of community beds is what's going to make the difference.
No.
And actually what we'd be looking for is people, where possible, to be looked after in their own homes.
I mean, I have to say, I do understand why you're asking, because you're here, you feel like you want to answer immense questions. I want to know when my nail's coming out of my leg, and I'm thinking, you can help me, but there we go. So I think we're going to go to Councillor Cameron, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ewan Cameron from Glastonbury. And just the minutes over where I've just finished at a director appointment within NHS England. So I don't want to catch anyone unawares from that. The next time colleagues come to this committee, I should be really grateful to build on some of the points you made there, Melanie, earlier, with regard to future proofing and the future design. And given that we've got the 10-year plan, I'd be really grateful to find out what the Commissioner's views are to what maternity services look like in 5 years from now, so we don't get the surprise that we've just recently gone through again.
Yeah, I think that's noted, isn't it? I think it's noted. I think, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Bruce is the last speaker on this because we have got to finish at 1 o'clock this section. We've still got other things on the agenda, just this section. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Chair. Really encouraging to see that the recruitment campaign was so successful after some that weren't so successful going prior to that. We have heard in the past of the committee from, for example, the stroke unit, how much they've struggled to recruit people. So I'm just urging, please share whatever worked on that campaign, because to get that number of consultants on board, and it sounds like they're also on board and excited about the future and how they can shape the future of the service. So please share that.
Just very briefly, in the interest of time, I think something that we're an integrated trust now, and I think we really have to look at the value of employing staff to Somerset Foundation Trust. Being part of a bigger team, I think, is really quite much more reassuring for people when they come, being able to offer a kind of job variation, and you know, I think there's some of the things that really work that we're trying to build on with other services, and we've got some examples where it's worked well in other services as well. At times it's still going to be really tricky because it's still, you know, we've still got this challenge of encouraging people to come to the southwest and to our part of the southwest, which and there are some significant workforce shortages in various specialties and positions. So, but we will continue to kind of try to get that snowball effect.
I'd like to obviously thank you very much. I think I would like to ask whether it's possible, maybe not the whole team if it doesn't want to, but we would really like an update in February as to you are going to open in April. So we would like to be involved in that. There isn't a March meeting, unfortunately. There's only an April meeting, which you probably, unless you prefer to come to the April to let us know how it's done. Is that better?
I think if you wouldn't mind, that'd be great. So we can crack on and get it done. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what we'd like to know is we'd like to sort of embrace in the, obviously everything's okay, like to know if everything's not okay. But I think what we need to do is as a scrutiny is to make sure that we're on the ball, that we know what you need. And if you're not getting it, then we need to be with you and sort of seeing if we can sort it out. So I'd like to thank you very, very much today. Note the time, I've done it for you. But I thank you very, very much for being here, because I know time is very, very precious, but this has been really good today. And we're going to really positively, but please send our best messages, our best wishes to the Yeovil staff and Musgrove staff, because we just appreciate this massive change and co-location for them. It's been immense for them. It can't have been easy at all. And you know, you all look remarkably still young, so you're okay. You know, so it's a lot of strain, but thank you very much for coming today. Thank you. Thank you. Right, members, so we're noting that on the update we noted that. Okay, that's fine. The next item on the agenda is the work programme, which you'll see before you. But I also need to let you know, and you've probably hopefully had the message about the additional adults and health meeting has been scheduled for December just to consider the monthly term financial plan ahead of the full council on the 17th of December. The scrutiny corporate resources on the 5th of January as attended by all chairs and vice chairs. So I'd like to advise you that there's been some movement on the work programme, reflecting more detailed schedule and reports back and updates and recent agenda items. So taking forward a view on matters such as the annual reporting. So you have been given a date, I believe, Jamie, for the December meeting. And obviously I did ask if this meeting could have been online because I really felt that would help many members. I'm asking, can we have this meeting online? Monthly term financial plan? Can we have it, or do we have to be physically in here?
If you want to make recommendations, you'll need to be in the room.
Okay. Does that work then for everybody? Does everybody prefer to be in the?
Well, I can, yeah.
So it's scheduled for Monday the 15th.
Monday the 15th.
December. It should be in
It's in your diaries, all right?
So can I just clarify then, if I don't want to make any recommendations, I can attend online. I can still speak and ask questions, but I can't make any recommendations.
Yes, that's fine.
But if I want to make a recommendation, is it possible if I can't attend in person, can somebody sub for me and make a recommendation?
Well, it's only voting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's only, yeah, you can have a sub, absolutely.
That would be the best way round.
That's probably the best.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. Get a sub for you.
I mean, obviously, in order to be quorate, to make formal recommendations to the executive, I would need 5 members in the room. No, sorry, I need that on.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm so sorry.
I would need 5 members in the room. So I appreciate it's very near Christmas. It's not ideal, but Adults and Health was the only scrutiny committee that didn't have an existing December meeting already booked in. And we were asked to ensure that the MTFP proposals went to each of the 5 scrutiny committees before that council on 17th. So
it'll only be an hour meeting. It'll be a short meeting. It's just that item.
It depends on you.
No, I think for that one, we'll just have an hour meeting just for that one. So
my expectation would be it would just be a single item agenda.
Single item agenda we'll do for that. Sorry.
That might be possible now.
Yeah.
attend, and if, Jamie, if you could send me the invite, I'll.
Yeah, and Lucy, you can attend.
I've got it in my diary already.
I've already sent my apologies down.
Oh, yeah,
John.
John, where are you, John?
What?
Oh. Okay, John, I'll be home at 2. We'll get that done. We'll get
If
that
I
done.
send this up, would that count as a,
I'll find
for
it.
the quorum?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes, that would.
absolutely.
I'll find it still, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
All right, thank you very, very much. I'm sorry about having that extra one. I did try to fight it, I got to be honest, because I know it's difficult for.
I can
working-
concur that the chair did.
I did, yes, I did, yeah, sorry about
I
that.
pulled a sulky face when I saw it.
Yeah,
Oh.
I know, and I've got 3 on that day already, so it's, you do feel a little bit, you know. So on the, now I want to just tell you something, on the forward plan, I'm going to ask Emily just a bit, but there's, something I wanted to bring up. I wanted an update on where we are with the Duke's Chemist.
We're back.
The Duke's the Chemist that has been formally recognised online, in the media and everywhere else. And what we're doing with our empty chemists. And there was problems with those chemists that have caused a lot of problem. It's under investigation. But I think what I wanted to say was, can we have a look at the next meeting, whether what's going to happen to those chemists? There are very many in the Bridgewater area, and I believe Burnham area. So chemists are empty because they were holding those chemists, which is very difficult for members of the public. And I've had a lot of complaints about it. Emily, is there anything else I need to say on that?
Sorry, Chair. So I think what we discussed was about maybe you writing to the ICB to request an understanding of the mitigations that what they're doing in order to mitigate in terms of the loss of pharmacies. They have given a statement. They can't really say too much because all with the administrators at the moment. So they're working across the southwest. They're working with the administrator in relation to Jehoot's pharmacy. They have given assurance that nobody should be left without medication. That may be something that you may want to seek clarification for them on. So I would suggest that you write to the ICB surrounding the mitigations surrounding that.
Thank you very much. And is everybody happy for me to do that?
Yeah.
Please, because I think it is an important factor, and we've got chemists here that are running under a lot of strain, because obviously these major ones are shut. Councillor Criminal.
Can I add a sort of an idea of something that we could look at to the floor plan? I'm not quite sure how it works, how it would look, but I've had a few, this isn't in my area, but I've had a few councillors who have mentioned to me that, you know, they hear in their area a lot about people who are finding, patients in one surgery being asked to travel for the surgery, so base things like blood tests, for example, and also long waits, and that is something I've personally experienced, 3 weeks for a blood test. And the urgent appointment was 10 days away. So, I feel as though maybe it's such a simple, basic procedure, but it's vitally important to people and to their ongoing care. And so I don't know how we would tackle it, but I'd be really interested to find out about getting those services in people's surgery and how we could make sure that the service is improved, so people aren't waiting weeks and weeks. Thank you.
Councillor Bruce.
Sorry, I feel I need to come in on this one. I think that really fits in with what I think you know what I'm going to say.
I know.
There's a wider picture that we need to look at, and that's the housing growth and the primary care capacity. And it's something we really need to look at. There's failures somewhere in communication between the SCB, Somerset Council, planning. I don't know what's going on, but our housing development is growing, and the primary care services that are being provided or that are available in capacity is not there. And that's part of it, I think, is because the things like blood testings and housing that's being created and the people that are living there haven't got the surgery to go to, so they've got to travel. So it's part of the same discussion, I think.
I think if I may, thank you, Sarah, I will put down. I think what I wanted to say was, I've had this, the phlebotomists, they're called, aren't they, or something, phlebotomists. What I was going to say was, what I think is, it's about the joined up thinking at the moment. It's not about the extra, and I get what you're saying about housing, of course, I understand completely. But what I'm saying is, it seems to be surgeries, doctors' surgeries, people are getting their blood tests, but cancer patients in particularly are being made to go to a different doctor's surgery. This is what I'm being told, are going to a different doctor's surgery to get bloods, and then but not the doctors they're at, because you know, and then other ones are having to go to their doctor's surgery. It's like they're not joined up together. They're getting the same service, they're not joined up together. That's what I'm trying to, you know, you I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I believe. So sorry, Sarah, if you want.
Yeah, just to say, two things. One is, and we've had this question before about doctor surgeries on new housing estates. They used to put in some provision for that, but they weren't taken up by the health service, so they stopped doing it. Yeah, so they don't do it anymore in that way. But the other thing is, just remember that the NHS is undergoing a massive revision and reconstruction, and you've all heard about the closure of hospital beds in some of our community hospitals. The reason for that is because they're going to put services locally, blood tests if necessary, cancer treatment if necessary, whatever it is, much more locally to people in those spaces they're creating in some of the community hospitals. And what they've said is they are lucky we have a range of community hospitals because we've got the facility there. Otherwise, you'd be building something new. Doctors in working in private practice, and I know some in the Taunton area, they are working in a situation which is non-sustainable going forwards. People do not want to become partners in private practice anymore. A lot of them are women, not all of them, but they want to work part-time. And it doesn't work being a partner in something where you're only working 2 or 3 days a week. It just doesn't work. So that is changing. And the NHS reconstruction and 10-year plan is part of this. So I do not think we're going to get doctor surgeries in new developments anymore. But what the NHS will try and do is make sure they've got them across the county. Scattered. Yeah, scattered. And there will be hubs for people to go for treatment in a different way. And I don't know how it's going to work out with the doctor surgeries that we've got already, but gradually I think they will resolve into something different.
Thank you, Sarah, for that. I'd forgotten about the fact that the health don't want to take up with the housing. I'd forgotten that, and that's a good point, and I hadn't remembered that. Apologies. Oh, Councillor Bailey.
Hello.
And then no, Councillor Whale, and then Councillor Cameron, and then Councillor Bruce.
Hey, sorry, back in order. Just to carry on this, the blood side of things, and in Chard now, the local Chard Community Hospital, which they used to have wards and dozens, has 3 days and just been expanded to 4 days, where if you won't have to be blood for hospital like I do once a month, you can go there. You don't go to your doctor anymore for that. And also the Beacon Centre nurse, who I used to have to go and see regularly in Taunton, now comes out to the community hospital. So it's backing up, Sarah, what you just said. And I can assure you as a user, it's miles better. It's much better service, really working well. And that's in our local community hospital. So I'm glad to say I think it's better. It's much better than me trying to get an appointment with a doctor, which was absolutely very difficult. So that's the way it's going forward. I think it's the way forward.
Just got to accept change, haven't we? And perhaps embrace it. Maybe the negativity we're in is because we didn't understand those elements. Yeah. So thank you for that. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make a point in related to the provision side that was talked about earlier on. I've got another point as well, but it's please scrutinise plan applications that come through, because frankly, some of the information that comes through there from the NHS is frankly inaccurate and out of date. And I've had experience to look at that because it actually needs to be updated. They're not on the ground, so just keep an eye on that situation. The point I wanted to make was about the programme, and I wondered whether one of the items potentially be considered was the impact on Musgrove Hospital. Bearing in mind they're looking at an integrated service now, would that well bringing that into to look at the whole integrated service, including Musgrove, somewhere early in the year, January or February?
I thought we had looked at the impacts on Musgrove before. I've got it down. We had to look. Maybe
I'm only picking up what's on the items.
Yeah,
included?
some of these are duplicated, but it's worth it. It's absolutely, if that's what you want, I'm happy for that.
Well, I'm thinking of looking at it as an ICB and the integrated unit, because that's situations that obviously happen by you,
But I think that's the bit though, I forgive me, I thought that was the bit that we had looked at, the impacts on Musgrove because of Yeovil Hospital. I think mainly on the maternity side. You're talking overall. Are you?
No, just maternity.
Just
and
maternity.
I thought you raised this point yourself, in the meeting.
Yeah, I did, but I think they gave us an update on that, it's all, but I'll put it down, it's not a problem. Okay, councillor Cameron.
Chair, thank you very much. And just for everyone's awareness, I used to run all of diagnostic services in the south of England.
So it's your fault?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're talking about is diagnostics in the community. And I think, as Councillor Whale said, this is use of the community diagnostic centres. And all phlebotomy should be conducted through your CDCs now, as opposed through your GP surgeries. Because one is community diagnostic centre.
Sorry.
Because it's more appropriate, it's the right place, right time, it's got phlebotomists, and it's a much better environment, as Councillor Well said, and you're not mixing with other patients. Can I just suggest that we know what the 10-year plan is. We know the 3 shifts in gear, i.e. acute to community, treatment to prevention. RSCB to come in to explain how they intend to deliver on those 3 shifts. So we therefore understand those changes that are going to happen in our communities.
Yeah, I think actually, say to you, if I may, that the point that was raised by Councillor Criminal, they're not going to special places. They've got people are having to go to other doctors' surgeries. So some people are going to one doctor's surgery and then they're going to an opposite. They're not actually going to a special place. They're literally crossing over doctor's surgeries, and that is fact.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the understanding of the public with regard to CDCs and specifically community diagnostic centres is very poor. Because when I speak to my residents and talk about these changes in the NHS, their point of preference is still their own GP surgery. And so, explaining those changes is something that isn't getting through at the moment, and that's why I was just suggesting maybe we ought to ask the ICB what those plans are, so therefore we can communicate.
Yes, I like that. Thank you. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you, Chair. I'm all for these changes, and I think it's great. I think it's really important, like you said, that the communication is better, and we can get them here to explain that. I think my point comes from the fact that the GP surgeries themselves, in my particular case is Bridgewater, but the GP surgeries themselves wrote in explicitly explaining they don't have capacity for the new housing developments. For the GP surgeries, probably it sounds like they're not aware of where this plan is either. So this is my problem. It's like, if we're not communicating with each other, we don't know. If there is a 10-year plan and this is the way it's going, and we will have the capacity just in a different way, great, fantastic. Let's shout about it. Let's make sure the residents know, because at the moment, planning applications are going in, they're being approved, and the GP surgery is saying, we don't have the capacity for these. And then residents, quite rightly, are up in arms, thinking, how are we going to manage? But we need to communicate this better, and we need to be better aware, and the surgeries need to be aware of how things are going to change, so that they know that their operations are going to be affected.
My understanding is that any planning applications, all the services know what's happening. Often what's happened is that the 106 agreements are made with different, when we go to planning, as you know, we sit on planning, you're looking at the directive of housing, you're looking at the type of housing, where it is. You're not allowed sometimes to be able to look at the other elements. We're not allowed, and it's very frustrating, because sometimes we're saying it's not in the right place, it's not this, it's not that. No, that doesn't come under it. But I do think it's absolutely right what was said, I think by maybe Councillor Benny, that sometimes they don't respond. They don't respond. Now, whether they don't get the communication, but what we need to do is get the ICB to say to community, say to doctors, when we're going to put new housing we want people from schools, hospitals, doctors, surgeries. We want everybody to be linked in together so they can give an opinion. But the way our planning law is, we're only allowed to look at planning and the need. And that's what I'm thinking, it's not right. It doesn't work right. And I don't know, Sarah, if you probably know more about this than anyone.
I don't know that I do, but I don't think that is something that you as a planning committee could say, we're not going to have this application through because they haven't got a doctor's surgery. I don't think you could do that because I think that comes from a different thing. I just want to emphasise to you all the pace of this change that is being made at the health service. The government has brought it in really quickly. They've said you need to have a plan in place by April next year to get it started. I've been to so many meetings about how we're going to do this. I mean, they are talking about it all the time and setting up their systems to deal with it. But closing NHS England, which is a big thing to do, a lot of people moving out of that means less people on the ground to do some of the work, obviously. But they are thinking differently. There are going to be more joined up services. There will be, doctors will have access to people's GP records. I mean, half the time you go to hospital, you have to write it all down again because they haven't got access to the records they need. So that is going to be better. They're going to get their IT sorted out. And that's all part of this 10-year plan. And all I can say is, yes, you can be impatient. You can ask the ICB what they're doing, but they will only be able to tell you how far they've got, because it is a long process. And I'm sure that Ewan actually knows more than I do about this.
So what we really need to do is keep this on the list. Keep it on the list and give them a little bit of time, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to get them in and they haven't got the full picture. That's not we. So what we'll do, Ewan, we'll keep Councillor Cameron, we'll keep that on the. I'm sure he has. Thank you.
Just really quickly, Chair, thank you. So with regard to the planning observation, the way that the NHS does it is that they have an overall cost envelope of £18.76 per head of population. So when your populations expand, more funding gets allocated to the NHS for them to allocate to the services. That's based on the joint strategic health needs assessment that our own Director of Public Health and team articulate, because they then articulate what the health needs are. The ICB then theoretically, this is theory, should then turn that into services. Doesn't always happen, but that's the theory.
I should clarify that I was referring to infrastructure, not the actual say in terms of planning. That last particular application that we're looking at, it was the infrastructure that they could have requested help for and the NHS didn't. And that was my issue, is that why did they not come back and say that they need a provision of funds for infrastructure? It's not, I appreciate the services are a different thing.
And that's what we're saying, that we just need to join things up a little bit more. So sorry, Councillor Trimnell.
Sorry, so I first need to state now, I feel I need to state and tell everybody, I was in support of the changes to the community beds. I'm totally behind that and I understand why it's being done and how it can help. My understanding was, however, that was to bring services more locally to people, and I would argue that if you are going to take phlebotomy services, blood test services out of your GP surgeries into your community hospitals, you are taking local services and pushing them further away from people. We need to remember that we live in Somerset, so Bridgeton doesn't have a community hospital, Wincanton does. We have a bus every 2 hours to Wincanton and every 2 hours back, and whether they coordinate in any reasonable way to get you to a hospital and back, bearing in mind a blood test takes just a few minutes, that's my concern. And the overall concern at the moment is we are dealing with what we have now, and I just wanted to talk about why people are having to make journeys to other doctors' surgeries for their blood test, and other people from those surgeries are going to their surgeries. That's all.
Bonkers. Well, I think so we'd like to have that on the agenda next time. Yeah, okay. So we'll put that on for January. On January, we've got social care training in Bridgewater. We've got social care training in Bridgewater. We've got Scrutiny adult and health forward plan, work plan. We haven't got, so we'll put the phlebotomist on there. All right. We'll find out that. Is there anything else that you want? Oh, and I think impacts on Musgrove. You wanted impacts on Musgrove, yeah? Impacts. So you've got that, Jamie. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. So we've got the impacts on Musgrove Park Hospital maternity unit. So I think we'll have that for the January as well. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Chair. Is it possible to get NHS dentistry?
Again?
We've done it.
You've just done it.
We've filled it off, but we.
Filled it off?
No, I just, sorry, we've had it a long time.
No, we pulled it out of the agenda, work on that.
But we could put it, we could have it, do you think it's too soon?
Chair, as you're aware, the Prime Minister announced 15,000 additional emergency dentistry slots being allocated to Somerset in the House to a PMQ that Sarah Dyke raised only 3 weeks ago.
I just remember, when we looked at this before, and I said this as well in Bridgewater. I talk about Bridgewater because I live here, but there were lots of dentist surgeries available. There isn't everywhere, but there is in some places. So we can do that if you want. I think, would that be okay, Jamie? Is it too soon?
I'd need to speak to colleagues. I mean, I know, sorry, do we switch?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. I know the last time we tried to get dentistry here took a lengthy time, and I know Councillor Bruce was on the case for many months, but
We need to start now.
Yes,
yeah,
try again.
that's what I'm thinking. So we might need to start.
Yeah, let's start again then.
Yeah.
Let's do it again then. So that's dentistry as well. Okay, can you put that on? Is this?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Right, okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to be on the 8th of January, I believe, although I thought that the meeting was changed. Am I still the 8th of January? I thought the meeting was changed because there were so many people. Am I wrong?
It's still in my calendar.
Okay, 8th of January, everybody. Okay, so we'll have 4 items on the agenda, unless anybody else wants anything else. Is anybody particular about anything else?
No.
We have budget. Budget update.
That's in December. That's December, the budget.
We'll have the third quarter.
We haven't got that on there, Jamie, so,
Okay.
so second quarter then, okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine, that's good. Yeah, because it's awful if you haven't got the budget talking about it. I missed it today. Yeah, budget update. Okay, so, is everybody happy with that then? Okay, so the work programme now is ready for January. So, excuse me, please. So I'd like to thank you all today for coming. Thank you sorry about the length of the meeting, but it's been very, very interesting. And look forward to seeing, I'm sorry I didn't bring mince pies, but it's a bit early. So maybe December. Thank you.
You don't need to. Thank you.